Reader Mail.
Number 7.
Hello and welcome to Triangle Square, the PlayStation podcast. In this case, a Reader Mail podcast. I'm your host, Brett Beck, and alongside me, your other host, Mr.
Saw Bridges. Thank you guys for joining lucky number 7 of Reader Mail, where we ask you guys to ask us questions every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on Twitter, Patreon, YouTube, and now Discord. Nobody did that this week, but I don't think we did a good job of upkeeping that. So
did we open the chat page for it?
No, we didn't open the chat page for it.
So yeah, that's what we need to do. It needs to be an exclusive chat room or whatever, a channel.
Patreon exclusive?
No.
Okay.
No, it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
It just needs to be a channel that you can go in there. That way, whenever we go to read them, it's just
and no discussions in
right
there for those that are in there. I know our Discord users are listening to this, and let's not discuss stuff in there. Let's just be questions. We can bring all the actual discussion back into general. But thank you for joining us. You can find our normal episodes of Triangle Squared every Monday at 10 a.m. PST, noon Central Time. And normal viewers, you can find this episode uploaded on Fridays, every other Friday at 5 p.m. Central Time. And Patreon viewers, you get it when we get done. So once it's done.
I have weirdly, just because I messed up, I moved them to noon.
I know. Do you want to keep them to noon?
It's fine,
okay.
Yeah.
So noon.
It was an accident, but it's been like that 2 weeks in a row now, or 2 times in a row.
Noon every Friday, or every other Friday for our Read 'em episodes. And then Patreon, or Patreons, you get this the second it's done processing, and we upload it straight there. We make an announcement on Discord and Twitter as well. And I think Brett probably handles that on Facebook.
So I know that you don't handle the back end of us putting them on Patreon. For anybody who's a patron, they understand. But for anybody who's thinking about joining us, what it does is Patreon has its own RSS feed that you can add into any of your
you get an email.
apps. So what's going to happen is that you only get it in audio format only, because there's no real clean way to do video format early. This is the way that things are set up, and Patreon doesn't have its own video thing, and it's not as easy anyway. So yeah, you'll get it audio early. And you know what? While we're here, we don't typically have as much time in between when we record the episodes, the actual proper episodes of the show. But I'm going to use this opportunity to ask if there's anybody who's a patron or anybody who's thinking about being a patron who would think that us putting the proper episode up as soon as we get done recording in audio format, and that they would like that, then let us know and we'll do it. It's not as much of a benefit, because it's only going to be maybe a day at max early. But if you think that y'all would like that and it wouldn't seem too close or come at a weird time, then let us know and we'll definitely consider doing that. I don't see any reason why we wouldn't. So let us know, and if we get enough feedback, then we'll do it. But go ahead, Saul. Keep rolling.
So if you guys ever want to ask us questions that you'll hear answered here, check out our Twitter at Triangle SQRD, our Facebook page, Triangle Squared, a PlayStation podcast. It's a group you can just go ahead and go through and follow. And Brett posts the images and posts that let you guys know when to ask us questions. And then, of course, Discord, we're going to have that opened up. So for you guys want to go in there and ask us questions. On Twitter, like I said, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, you'll see a post go up. You just respond to that post. I know we had a couple out of the post normally, but
we try and save those as much as possible.
And I know a couple of them were actually just conversations they were wanting to have, and we were like, "Do you want this to be on Reader Mail?" And they're like, "Yeah." So, and then we of course have Patreon, where you guys can ask us questions on there. Something new we're doing that we don't get a lot of traction in yet, but you can do it if you want to. Is that if you don't have any of these accounts? You're not like a social media person or anything, but you listen to us on YouTube, you can always comment on a YouTube video, a question. And it could be any YouTube video that is, I'd say recent. So we always see the notification anyways, but we know, or you'll know that we're going to answer that question if we go through and heart your comments. Other than that, we always say that just in case there's one day in which we get 300 a day and we can't answer them. So it's kind of more future proofing. But the beginning of this episode is dedicated solely to our good buddy on Twitter named El Chabib. He asks us questions every single time we put a Reader Mail tweet up.
That's right.
And since they are in kind of messages, I completely forgot them last week, and I think that we also had something else going on. We had to wrap up anyways.
Yeah,
but
we had some. Was it last week's that we had problems with again? I can't remember. I think we ended up having to redo some.
Reader Mail is cursed, so we had to
It's true.
So we're gonna start off with about 5 questions from El Chabib from Twitter, and then I believe I'm gonna let Brett take over Facebook. Facebook is my favorite thing because I don't have a Facebook. I don't see those. Those are all blind questions for me.
Okay. But go ahead and hit up El Chabib's, yeah.
Sure. He starts off with saying, "Hello, married people. Do you have a game developer that dropped off your gaming time during the years? Any developer, you will buy their games regardless of what game it is. I dropped off both Ubisoft and Rockstar because their style of games wasn't interesting me anymore, especially with Ubisoft putting Rayman for rest at this point. And I would play any game developed by Naughty Dog. Cheers.
Okay.
So this is an interesting question.
First thing we got to do is talk about the fact that we've said it a million times on here already, but the reason he says, hey, married folks, is that Saul got married. So shalom, mazel tov,
I'm not Jewish.
All the things. Hey, I can't just be a multicultural celebration of your marriage and your union and your partnership.
I mean, yeah, go for it, but I feel like that's really reserved for Jewish people. But anyways.
I don't actually know. You know what? I will say if it's offensive to do that, because
if you're Jewish, let us know.
If my if my intention was to be a butthole about it, then I wouldn't care. But I was really just saying that as a messing around being multicultural. But you know what? I don't know if that's considered rude. And if it is, it wasn't my intent.
I was going to say something rude, but I'll refrain from that and some other things. But as far as LGB's question goes, there is like Capcom, I guess. Like I used to really be deep dove into the Devil May Cry games, and for a really good while there wasn't a lot of Capcom games that I was playing, and definitely kind of stopped caring about Devil May Cry after 3. Well, I say that 4, realistically, because there was such a big gap in between the games, and I didn't even pick up DMC, which is
I still haven't
heresy that I know, but I actually enjoyed the game. But I didn't pick that up until the remaster hit PS4.
Oh, yeah.
And I think you actually came
DMC5.
with me that day to GameStop.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Honestly, that would probably be it. It wasn't for like any specific reason against them other than just the lack of the games that I cared about.
Now, would you say that Capcom have turned that around in recent?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like between Monster Hunter World, Devil May Cry 5, Resident Evil 2. I know there's one other big game that I'm forgetting that I did play. I can't think of what it is, but yeah, like absolutely. Capcom is back in its graces, for me at least.
Yeah, they've done a big turnaround, which is so funny because Capcom's been around for so long, very similar to Konami, but the difference between Konami and Capcom is that Konami is kind of okay with relegating themselves just to essentially abusing their old properties they've had, which way they've been doing with all these Konami collections.
I mean, even
which
stuff
is
like
fine, but
real life stuff like Yu-Gi-Oh and stuff too, like that's not even games that Konami has their hands on is kind of suffering.
Sure.
Like I know Richard's going to know more about this than I will, but I know he's not happy of the current state of Yu-Gi-Oh. But I digress. I don't really know much about it. But what about you, developers that dropped off your radar?
Now, mine for the ones that dropped off and then they kind of just have been that way. I used to play every Rockstar game. Whenever they came out, just like he was talking about. But somewhere in the time, I don't know if it was just because of me getting to play more games and realizing which ones fit my style more and then not settling to play a game that wasn't as much in my... Like, once I realized there were things I liked a lot more, it's like having to settle to play something else that really, even though I liked it at one point in time because it was my only option, it's essentially the options gave me the ability to kind of shy away from them.
Yeah.
But, they really dropped off after probably Bully. And after that, Red Dead just did not click with me when I ended up buying it used and I ended up not playing it. Grand Theft Auto 4 was a huge letdown to me. I just did not care for any part of it. And I don't know if it was because of the game or because of me. It's one of those things.
Yeah.
And like I said, Red Dead was the same way. Max Payne 3 was okay, and I did enjoy it. So that was one that I ended up buying and enjoying enough. But it still just didn't click with me the way that at one point in time I felt like they were. So they're definitely one that kind of fell off. And I agree that I don't care for their style either. That's what's so interesting about when they came back around and I finally decided to give Red Dead 2 a try. It was weird because I hadn't really cared up until that point. Grand Theft Auto 5 also didn't strike my interest at all, and I played it. I just did not want to keep playing it. So whenever Red Dead 2 came around, even though there were a lot of problems I had with it from a gameplay level, they did enough things to where I was able to make it on the gameplay side, make it I was able to play it, and I didn't just hate it, even though I didn't love it as much as I feel like I could have.
Right.
But the story was enough to make up for that. And, maybe that's true of all Rockstar games where the story would have been enough for me if I could have gotten over the gameplay, but there's a lot of problems with gameplay in a lot of those games for me.
I really enjoyed Grand Theft Auto 5's story. Like, that's the only Grand Theft Auto game other than Vice City and San Andreas that I've 100% of the story. Or not 100%, but beat the story.
You beat the story, yeah. See, now that's what's so interesting. When I was young, I played through and beat Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City, San Andreas, Vice City Stories, and Liberty City Stories, both of those. And those were more like, I was so amazed that they were able to even pull off the same quality on the PSP that even though they were kind of out of my graces at that point, even I was still playing them because I was just kind of,
They were fun games to play.
They were, but it was also just like, man, they were able to put this on a handheld and it feels and plays just like the PS2 ones. And at the time, that was amazing. So it was kind of like the technology marvel side of it got me to play them, even though I don't hardly remember the stories in those games at all in the 2 PSP ones.
Coincidentally, I played Devil May Cry 1 and GTA Vice City in the same day for the first time.
That's odd.
Yeah.
So what is the other side of the question? What's one that you'll buy at any point?
From Software.
I had a feeling.
From Software has never let me down. And they won't, I don't think.
Well, now you say you'll buy it at any time, but there is one stipulation to that because
the Surge.
You didn't buy Daracene because you don't have VR. But that's reasonable.
Yeah, I don't have VR, so
and it wasn't even enough of a pull to, even though your love for From is there, you didn't have enough pull to buy a VR because of Daracene alone. And that's, that's honestly a reasonable standpoint.
I don't think there's any one game, unless it's Beat Saber, that I would buy for VR alone.
Yeah, which is something that's really unique to that medium anyway.
I don't know that's something you can experience. Now, Daracene, I could watch a YouTube video on, I'm sure, and get the full experience for the most part, because it's more of like walk around, pick up things, examine them.
Kind of like an adventure game.
Yeah, so it is in the Bloodborne universe, and that's super cool.
Sure. I'll say right now, my one, Naughty Dog is mostly there, but because they've not been being as creatively, I mean, it's just going to happen with how long their games have started to take. And even that's been happening across the board with Sony's developers, but there are a few. Sucker Punch is one of those developers for me where they've gotten a lot of rep these last few years because of the Infamous series getting so big, and then Second Son being a huge launch game, and then a lot of people are really hyped for Ghost of Tsushima. But prior to that, I mean, they have yet to release a bad game, and I mean, since I started playing them, so Sly Cooper 1, they had the Rocket Robot or something like that. It was on 64 before that I'd never played. But prior to that, they're a small group of developers that are real spunky and have a lot of great ideas. And I think that their style shows through all their games. And I'm excited for Ghost of Tsushima. So that's definitely one of them. I think Naughty Dog had that too, but Naughty Dog's had a lot of identity changes that I don't feel like is true in the same way.
Well, you go from Jack and Daxter to The Last of Us in a span of 10 years, or technically Daxter to Last of Us.
Go from Jack and Daxter to
Daxter wasn't
Uncharted. You know what I mean?
Daxter wasn't Naughty Dog, was it?
No, that was Ready at Dawn.
Yes. Okay.
But more importantly, I get your point, though. That's kind of where I'm at with them. It's like, when you play Naughty Dog games, you look at Crash Bandicoot and you look at Jack and Daxter, the blood, like the through line of the blood from Naughty Dog is there. And then you get to Uncharted, and Uncharted is such a big evolution that I could see why it'd shake a lot of people off. And even though I love Uncharted, it is like a tale of two Naughty Dogs.
Well, that's why Days Gone does get the jokingly hassle that Bubsby. Nobody wants to play a game by, but that's the people who made Bubsby.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
But good question, El Shabib. I like that one, and I do agree. Rayman should make a return, especially 3D Rayman. Rayman 2, The Great Escape.
Okay,
GOAT.
I'm okay with that, but not GOAT in terms of Rayman. Dude, the Rayman Origins is one of the best Rayman games of all time. That's
not
good.
saying a lot, considering there's only 3 good Rayman games.
Rayman 1 and 2 are both great games.
Yeah, and Origins.
Rayman 3 is actually pretty good.
I don't remember 3 that much, and I played through it, so that tells me something.
Rayman 3 is pretty good. It's not amazing, but it's good. And past that, Rayman got on a bad slope there for a while, but when they came back with Origins...
Well, I heard Legends was pretty bad, right?
Well, see, I didn't care for it because it went way more...
That's who I remember telling
It went way more musically driven. It was like, now it was trying to platform to a beat, which I didn't care for.
And Great Escape was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
I can hear it in my head. They also made a really cool, not 3DS, but DS version of that game, too, which was really cool. Let's see.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was a port, and it was a perfect
I do
port.
remember that. I'm going to hit this up. I'm going to hit the next one up just for changing in voices.
You do that.
All right, he says, hello again, guys. This is still Mr. El Tabib. Simulation games, Sims, city simulation, farming simulations, thoughts. I always found them interesting and tried dabbling here and there with them, but as soon as they got more complicated, I stopped playing them. Have a good weekend. Well, you know what? I know that weekend.
It's been a while, but
you have a good weekend. I actually told him that. Have a good weekend as well. But, okay, Saul, do you have... I think you might even have more experience with simulation games than me, but I don't know for sure because I think we both have edged into them at different times, but I don't think we've ever head over
Does
heels
Animal
for?
Crossing count as simulation?
No,
Does Stardew Valley count as simulation?
maybe.
That's like the only two that
That one's kind of an
a lot
interesting.
into.
Yeah.
Like Animal Crossing, thousands of hours over the past decade.
It's a little
Stardew
different.
Valley, like maybe 50 hours, 40 hours. That one was the one game I still need to go back to because I played a lot of it and I loved it, but something like a game didn't come out or something, anything like that. It's just I lost interest in it.
Yeah.
But I don't remember why. Like it's one of those weird things that has happened to me before with other games, but I really don't know if I have a answer for this. I know yours. I know what yours is going to be. Like if anything, it's racing.
Oh, well, there's that, but I was actually going to go outside of that because even though racing simulation is there, it's still primarily racing. So while I was going to bring it up, I don't consider it to be in the general spirit of this because he's kind of talking about, a lot of this is like, well, you're essentially simulating real life things, and that a lot of simulation games, and that is true of racing games as well, that are simulation, they have a lot of back end mechanics that are really monotonous to people who don't care for it. They just seem like, well, why is this going on? They're real tedious and they're weird, but they're part of what the simulation style is. So in this case, my big one that I've loved forever, Roller Coaster Tycoon.
No, that does not count.
Dude, that's a simulation game.
I don't care.
You're essentially simulating going through. It's no different than The Sims. The Sims. The point of The Sims is that you're simulating somebody, a family's life, or a character's life.
I don't count that as simulation because it's not realistic. The same way Stardew Valley or like Animal Crossing, even though you're technically doing things that you would do on a day-to-day basis.
Animal Crossing, I don't know because I haven't played enough of it. I don't want to. But I know what
you got to fix that. When Switch it comes out for Switch, you got to buy it.
Dude, it's a game that I don't think I have time for because it's a game that demands you play it all the time.
That's what I get like more so of like more simulation than like Stardew from that one aspect because in Stardew, time progresses in game and not out of game.
Not out of game, and I'll give you that. It's like every time that you open up.
But yeah, if Roller Coaster Tycoon counts, like he did say SimCity, and I have played a fair share of SimCity, but it's been on like the original like first 3 years of Windows XP.
Okay, I played SimCity on PS1.
I did not know it came to PS1.
Yeah. So I did that.
So long.
And I've played Sims. So like I really loved the Game Boy, and I played all of them to see which one I thought was the best. And surprisingly enough, the Game Boy one was Sims.
There's
Herbs
a
in the
Sims
City
game on DS. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Where you could like get a rat costume and it was Ratman. And that game was really good.
I think somebody's talking. I want to say that maybe Sims 2 or like a knockoff of Sims 2, because Jonathan loves the Sims games, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
So I've seen a lot of them.
laptop that Seth used to have.
Yeah. So, but I played Sims Herbs in the City on the Game Boy, and then the DS version was just a better port of it. And I played both of those. And I really like those. I do like some. This is the thing about simulation games is like it lets you build and do all these things. It's like city simulation. That's why I count Roller Coaster Tycoon. It's more about you're simulating a lot of things that are about what it's like to be like. City simulation is like, well, what's it like to do all these things? Like City Skyline. It's like, what is it like to build an entire city, roadways and buildings and all, and do all that, and then manage it over? And it's not always going to be entirely realistic, but that's what I loved about the Roller Coaster Tycoon games. And definitely, they're one of those games where I don't see how they'd work on a console because of the way that you can go into building and whatnot. But I always loved that you could like grab the corners of terrain, the blocks, and pull them up or down.
Yeah, and kind of change it around. That's what I like.
And be able to build so you could be like, well, I want to build my roller coaster going up, but I have to have something to lay the track on, so I'm going to build the ground up.
Honestly, dude, I played around in Far Cry 2's like map editor so much because of that.
Me
I would
too.
just make really big pits, fill up with water, and just jump in like from like the top.
Yeah, we would remake Halo maps in it whenever Seth used to come over all the time.
That's kind of cool. I never thought about that.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, why don't you guys let us know though what your favorite sim games are? If Roller Coaster fits the same as Animal Crossing, I'm gonna go Animal Crossing.
Yeah,
but if they don't, then
outside of that, what are your general thoughts on them? I mean, I
like them.
I think they're cool, but I think it's the same thing I think to Saul is that I don't have time for that kind of stuff a lot as much as I used to. And even though, and don't get me wrong, I could probably get off into a good Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 if I just really wanted to. Actually, it's not been that long ago. It's been about 4 years ago that I got into like a 3-week period of playing only Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 on my PC. It was right before I moved into this house.
What? Dang. See, and that's the thing is that like if I'm gonna play, it's gonna be Cityscape because I actually bought that game.
Mm-hmm.
During a
Cityscape or is that City Skyline?
City Skyline.
Okay.
But excuse me, I actually bought that game during a Steam sale. I think it was like $9 or $19 or something, and it was not too far after it come out, like within the first year. And I have it actually on my computer now at home But if I'm going to get into something on PC that is going to suck time away from me, it's probably going to be Civ 5. Like, Civ 5 is my favorite, like, PC time waster game. Civ 6 is good, but I really like Civ 5 more.
Sure.
But, so, yeah. I mean, I like them. It's just, if I'm going to sink time into something, then it's going to be probably Civilization, which it's not really relevant to the question.
All right. Yeah, you want to hit the next one?
Yeah. He says, hello again. BioWare and Anthem problem. Why do they get slammed to compare Anthem to their previous games? And he goes on to list Mass Effect and Dragon Age, despite the developer saying these games will continue. It's a new game / world / different genre. Just like comparing Naughty Dog's Jak and Daxter to Uncharted and The Last of Us. Hey, we did not know that one where it was saying that. Played it in bits and pieces and way better than playing it in extensive sittings. Brett, I'm going to let you handle this because I don't have experience with this game other than the first 2 hours. I still have not gone back and done anything. So
Yeah.
I do think it got slammed because it is a games as a service, and people are comparing it to other games as a service that have been out and that are more successful because they've been out. But that's just my 2 cents.
I think it's a number of things. So definitely the fact that they're coming into an already somewhat crowded thing right now with a lot of games that are doing sequels that are learning from their mistakes. And I was also one of the people that was really under the auspices that BioWare were going to pay attention to those other games and not make the same mistakes that the first games like The Division and Destiny both made going early on into it, and even Warframe going back really early. And Warframe is a massive game now, but you thought they were going to learn from all that genre and come into this genre with a somewhat sophisticated take on it. And instead of doing that, and as much as I enjoy the game, it's very fun. There's a super fun core there, and there's a lot of ideas that they do in this game that are not normal in this genre, and it kind of makes the game unique because of the fact that it's not normal. But the parts that it needs to shine in the most for people who prefer these games in terms of playing it for 1,000 hours, that's one of those things where they did not do enough attention. And now that we've seen that Jason Schreier article that came out talking about all this, and it sounds like, the back end were people saying, well, let's not look at Destiny. No, don't look at Destiny. Don't say anything about Destiny. We're not comparing to Destiny. We're not doing anything like Destiny. Going so far as saying that they wanted to use Diablo 3 as the point of comparison. And I don't even think Diablo 3 and Destiny 2 or even Destiny 1 are that similar of games. I wish they were more similar. But my point being that they were so off-put on whether or not they wanted to focus on making the right game in the genre that they had chose to do, which at this point was a service-type game that's an ever-persistent online game. They made a lot of mistakes in that, and I think it's part of why they got slammed. And then the other thing was general problems that a lot of these games end up having, which is connection problems or early problems with the game not running right or not having enough content, all these things. And I don't even know that necessarily the game didn't have enough content, but it didn't have enough content and variety. And as somebody who's gone back and played a lot of that content over and over again, I don't even care because the game's that fun to me. But for the people that are playing 1,000 hours and, literally doing 10 times the amount of time I put into this game now, it matters in a much different way.
Yeah.
So, and then the secondary thing I'll say, and I think this is probably the biggest reason, is that it's coming from EA. And EA has been on a downward spiral in public opinion for a long time. And they have been game after game getting slammed. I mean, they got slammed with Mass Effect Andromeda, and so did BioWare. And of course, a lot of people, including myself, were under the idea that, okay, this wasn't the normal Edmonton studio. This was the offshoot Austin studio, or I can't remember which one. I think it was Austin that made it. So, it was easy to go, it was a one-off. Andromeda is a fine game on its
Was it
own
Austin
merits.
that made that?
BioWare Austin, I'm pretty sure. If it's not, there's another BioWare.
I didn't realize that was developed so close to here.
Yeah. And it was kind of like all of them, but that was the primary studio for it. So anyway, with that being said, it's one of those things where, Mass Effect Andromeda was a fine game on its own, but it shouldn't have been a Mass Effect game, and it probably would have done better. But since it was, and since it was EA, it's always EA's ruining BioWare, and then BioWare is doing this. So EA took that blow, and so did BioWare. Then we move on. We go to Star Wars Battlefront 2. Bam. EA got crapped on for their bad loot box decisions.
Battlefield 5.
Then we go into Battlefield 5. Battlefield 5 has had its own problems that people have been up in arms about.
Some people still attribute Apex Legends problems to EA too, which more so you would think it's going to fall onto.
Well, Respawn is wholly owned by EA now. And
I know that, but I'm just saying.
And they used to not be. So people used to put Respawn in a little bit of its own bubble. They're like, well, it's just a partnership.
Well, it's like Bungie versus Destiny, or Bungie versus Activision.
Yeah.
So
who do you get to put the blame on because of it? Yeah. But, in these situations, it does seem to be that a lot of the I think people were coming into it tense already because of how much they distrust EA. So people were going into it with this already negative idea and thinking negatively that the game can't be good. The game can't be good. And when you go into something with such a negative viewpoint, you notice the negative that much worse, and it stands out that much worse. And then your ability to control yourself from saying something that's probably a little too much about the game just goes out the door. And there are reasonable complaints about Anthem. I've seen a lot of them. I followed the Reddit because I find it interesting to see how people who are still playing the game hour upon hour are still having a lot of constructive feedback and sometimes even hating on the game, but in the hopes to obviously make it better. So I'm curious to see how this goes down, but it does seem like it's gotten BioWare. One thing he said was that, it's a whole different franchise world, genre, and everything, when they're so used to doing RPGs, and that even the RPG elements in this aren't normal.
Yeah,
so
that was one of the things that caught me off guard.
Yeah, like not seeing any stats was weird.
Well, I mean, you have your gun and suit stats too, but like
it's
weird.
None of them are together. There's not
level.
a stat screen. There's none of that.
Right?
Nobody understands the way that the suit leveling works. We assume it's an average, but I don't know. It's very weird.
I was playing a game the other day. I don't remember what it was, or I was maybe looking at a game and I was like, this game doesn't make sense because it doesn't display your stats. And I'm like, but it's an RPG. And it's not something I was playing. I misspoke. It's something I was looking at buying. Maybe it was Outward, but I don't know if Outward shows your stats. It's something that didn't make sense to me. But we got one more question from LGB. Why don't you hit that one off?
Yep. He says, hey, guys, what one genre would you wish would make a comeback? Mine is beat-em-ups, and maybe in the vein of the Souls Bloodborne difficulty levels. Okay.
That'd be cool.
Castle Crashers was awesome, and I can't wait for Streets of Rage 4. So he's interested he brought up Streets of Rage 4 because I was actually going to say that the genre's kind of been making a weird... It's been trying to make a comeback throughout the last decade. There was Double Dragon Neon, which is a PS3 downloadable title.
The one on the Vita that I can't think of that I've always wanted to play that I still should go pick up.
That was a beat 'em up?
Yeah, it was not Dragon's Dogma, Dragon's Crown.
Oh, yeah.
That's a beat 'em up.
I guess it is, yeah.
What do you mean you guess? That is a beat 'em up. It's
well, I've never played it.
Scrolling beat 'em up.
I've never played it, so I guess it's just in my mind it looks more like a side-scrolling RPG / Metroidvania. But since I've never played it,
all the videos I've ever seen looks like a beat 'em up.
It probably is. It looks dope. It's just that I've only ever seen the artwork. The artwork to me looks reminiscent of something you'd see in a Metroidvania.
Let me make sure because I've never.
It probably is. I would be willing to bet that it is. That's pretty interesting though that he wants to do it on a Soulsborne level of difficulty, because those games are already, depending on who plays them and how used to them you are, they're not necessarily easy. Definitely as you continue to level up.
It is a beat 'em up.
Okay.
But yeah, like honestly, like that's a good question because it reminded me I still need to play Dragon's Crown on Vita. But I'm gonna say, tactical RPGs. I was like, what is the name of those? Yeah, Tactics. Final Fantasy Tactics. Tactics Ogre.
Okay, yeah, because there's
Fire Emblem's doing a really, really good job of preserving the core of that series, and so was the game that I bought on Switch, played once and never played again. That's really cool, but I need to go back. Cost $20. New Tactics style game. You can make your own game.
Oh yeah, you forget the name every time, and now you're gonna make me do it.
Yeah,
it's I hate you, Wargroove.
Yeah. So like it's staying in that niche, but like Final Fantasy. Was it last year or 2 years ago? Square Enix did the April Fools that there was making a new Tactics game.
Yeah, I think it was last year.
To actually come out, and it does not need to be a phone game, Square, because you have a lot of Final Fantasy phone games. I would love it. I would love it if it came out. I would buy it on Switch. If it had Octopath art style, I would buy it. I would buy the deluxe edition. I would buy the premium edition. I'd buy whatever it is, but I want that game. Brett, why don't you go ahead and take it away on for Facebook questions that you seem to have.
Well, hold on. I didn't answer the question yet.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I answered.
Mine is going to be, I think that's the word for them. But early into the PSP's life cycle and even early into the PS3's life cycle, there were a lot, and definitely PS2. PS2 is the king of this genre, and it was
Twisted
the
Metal.
dungeon crawlers.
Oh.
So, games like Champions of Norath, Baldur's Gate.
I mean, they're still there, kind of. Like, you have Torchlight 2. Diablo.
They're far less, and they're mostly PC oriented. And even
Torchlight 2
then,
is coming to PS4.
yeah. And don't get me wrong, there's
But I
some
know
other
you've
ones.
played a lot of
I
that.
think that there's like a Van Helsing game that's like that that came for PSP. Weirdly enough, that came for PC, and then I think it may have been ported to consoles. But it's
That actually does sound
something.
familiar now.
It's something that has been far less done than at one point in time it was. It was a king of a genre at one point. I mean, most
Yeah.
people who had a PS2 knew something about Baldur's Gate.
Yeah.
Well, Dark Alliance.
Yeah.
Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 1 and 2. Those are masterclass games. I think the Champions of North games are great.
Didn't they
I
just
also
remaster
really
those games?
enjoyed they did the original Baldur's Gate.
That's right.
The ones that are the
Diablo.
third person isometric.
Yeah.
They're no, because Diablo is still more
Well, I
of a
was going to say
dungeon
Diablo
crawler.
2 art style.
Yeah,
Or
but they're
our
also
era.
they're different. They're more in the style of something like what's that game? Pillars of
Eternity.
Eternity.
Yeah.
It's more like that. It's like that's more of a traditional RPG.
That's a CRPG.
Yeah, whereas these are more like, they're real action oriented. They have boss and dungeon layers that you go through, and they're very loot oriented in the way you do things. So it's a specific like subset of that genre. And those are games also like the Untold Legends series that Sony had going for, because Champions of Norath was also developed by SOE Online before they went off to be Daybreak Studios whenever they got sold. But they made a lot of those games that I really loved. And I mean, I want to say they had another series outside of Champions of Norath, and I can't remember what it was called.
Is it as old as that, or is it prior to Champions, or after?
I can't remember, and that's why I'm trying to go look, because I'm pretty sure it was. Okay, so it wasn't. So Champions of Norath was Snowblind, and Snowblind was the team behind Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance. So that's why my brain is skipping out a little bit.
Gotcha. I mean, I've always heard good things about, like, was there a Baldur's Gate on Vita?
So hold on, I know why I'm thinking of SO. Okay, so Sony Online Entertainment are the people that were behind the Untold Legends series.
And see, that's the one I think No, it's not. That's the one you have on Vita, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I do. And no.
Or is it PSP?
It was a PSP game. I do have it on my Vita,
Yeah.
but you've never seen me play it.
You showed it to me.
The one I was talking about that I showed you is real generic, and that's Dungeon Hunter Alliance.
That's right.
And
Which
that
is-
one, yeah.
What is the other dungeon game with Alliance in the title?
Oh, I don't know.
Was there not a Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance?
Oh, I mean, I guess, yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, sorry, my bad. But no, that's what I mean. Is I love that style of game.
That series has always intrigued me, but outside of Path of Exile, Torchlight 2, and Diablo 3, and a little bit of Diablo 2, I have not dabbled much. Does Divinity 1 and 2 count?
Of that series,
Because Divinity and Pillars are CRPGs, which is computer RPGs.
That's what I would say more of them too. Whereas you saw a bigger increase on the dungeon crawler games. I'm saying where they're dungeon crawler hack and slash is essentially like the mix up of them. But they got really big on console during the PS2. And one of the things I love so much about the Snowblind made games is that you could jump. And it's weird that you think that, because you can't jump
I was just going to say, why would you want to
Diablo. No, it adds verticality to the game, which is weird.
Yeah, I guess.
But it worked. And so I guess you don't remember, and I have Baldur's Gate. But
on the Switch? I mean, Vita?
No, Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance. I should keep saying that. But Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance, you could jump in that game. And you could jump on top of stuff and move around. And it actually led to hidden secrets and different things. It was nice to be able to jump. You could jump over enemies and stuff so you can get out of... It was a nice added layer to the game that a lot of games have not done. I really wish Diablo 3 would have implemented a jump at that point, but it didn't.
And there were no Baldur's Gate on PS Vita, right? Other than the...
Nope. I don't think so at all.
You couldn't even buy them from the store? The what is it called?
Wait, what? Oh, you could buy PSP games.
That's what I'm talking about. But are those on the store to download for the Vita?
Not Baldur's Gate, because there was never a PSP Baldur's Gate.
I thought there was. That's why I'm getting confused, I guess.
No, there's Untold Legends, Brotherhood of the Blade, and then there's Untold Legends, whatever
Baldur's
the
Gate
second
was
one was
pretty
called.
much PC and PS2.
I don't even think Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance, the one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I think it was PS2 exclusive. I don't
Gotcha.
actually, because I'm fairly positive. Hold on.
Gotcha. See, this is what's throwing me off is that they're so similar, and I don't have enough experience in them.
Yeah, they never came out on. Now that's weird. Game Boy Advance. I gotta know what that's like.
That sounds intriguing.
Yeah, but it didn't come to PC. I didn't think so. The genre this particular subgenre got really big on consoles. So, Baldur's Gate 2 did not come to, and that's right there. That game is still very expensive. Oh, apparently it's not. It finally dropped in price? No, there goes one of the ridiculous price ones. Yeah, dude.
$164
Yeah.
for a PS2 game?
I gotta see what's up with this one. I'd buy that game to play on PS2 if I had somebody to play it with me. That's a great game.
That's an eBay bid with not okay. Never mind. There is real pictures. It's the game case.
Is it just the case?
The game case for $7.19, folks. That's not worth it. But
let's see. No, it's saying that it's the. It doesn't say it's just the case.
Let's push onward.
Yeah, sorry.
Let's hit up those Facebook questions.
All right,
El
now,
Chabib, sorry for missing you last time, but you asked some good questions, and the whole first part of this was dedicated to you, my boy. So thank you once again.
Okay, you got it. Donovan asked.
Oh wait, are these quickfire Donovans or no?
Yeah, these are quick Donovan.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I don't know. This one's probably hard to do quickfire.
Okay.
So, do you think meme culture of today will integrate with video games?
There's a question about this on Twitter that we can go ahead and loop into here, which
okay.
I will go ahead and do that. Except this one is about Borderlands 3. And
yeah, that seems fitting.
It was Kiki who's the one that asked it on Twitter. But he does say, let me scroll down here real quick. Do you guys think with the current social climate that Borderlands 3 humor will be affected by it? So, honestly...
so they're not really... They're not the same question, but I kind of get it.
Yeah, they are.
No, one's meme culture and one's talking about...
Borderlands humor is all meme culture.
Well, hold on. And one's talking about whether the meme culture will be able to survive. In terms of that, it's saying, like, will their humor, which I do think is somewhat...
I think that's what
it'll end up being based around
means.
it. Maybe.
Because technically, like, who attacks meme humor? Political stuff.
People do.
Well, I'm saying there's more.
But it just, it just depends on what's going on. But memes are so universal that they can literally live across anything. So the thing is, if some person just doesn't see enough memes and they only see memes that are all politically oriented, well, then you're going to have a weird view of memes. So if you start hearing that something has meme humor in it, you're going to think negatively because, like, why are they trying to copy that? I mean, they're going to put some kind of unnecessary politicization in the game, and that's not necessarily true. A game that's already done this and I think is interesting, I don't think you played, was Guacamelee 2.
Nope.
So
never played the first one.
I'm not going to really consider this a spoiler, but there's a part in the game where there's just a hidden area that you can find, and it's all old memes, and it's like,
you did show me that it had like the troll face in it or something.
And it's on purpose. It's like, and it's like, you go back in time and like they're stuck in the past, so it's all super cringe. It's got the Me Gusta face.
That's what it was, not the troll face, the Me Gusta face.
It had the Me Gusta face, but it had a bunch of different memes in it, and you could also talk to people in there that would say things that were based around memes. So, and it was just a little area of the cave, and they were all ridiculous. And I mean, I loved it, but meme culture today, and then I want to hear your thoughts because I know that you're kind of in it, but since you're a little less on social media,
I mean, I'm on Reddit, which there's a fair share of that on there.
Yeah, there is. But the thing about meme culture today, and I think you at least know this much, is that it's so quick now.
Oh, it is. It's like that's the thing that can outdate it possibly, is that like things you see this week are going to completely dead, replaced by something else next week. Yeah. Which is what my answer is that I think that if they're going to have to be memes that have been around for a while that still are here.
Which is rare.
Dabbing. Dab on them haters. That's been a thing for like a year and a half now, and it's still a thing. It's kind of outdated, but it's not the freshest, spiciest of the memes, but it's there.
Well, it's just that it's really down because I mean memes turn over so quickly. Almost every week to 2 weeks, you're going to expect a new meme to come out, and by about 3 weeks in, any meme that was around before is going to be completely
being
just gone.
An adult that doesn't use anything must be so thrown off by like kids these days.
I don't know, man. It's so interesting. I think that was what I was going after too, is that meme culture moves so quickly these days, whereas used to, the Me Gusta face was a meme for a long time.
Yeah. And I do think like
Velociraptor was a meme for a long
Troll
time.
Face was too.
Troll Face, Pepe the Frog,
years.
Before somebody tried making him an alt-right character.
Still Pepe Frog to me.
But my point being is that these are memes that were around for so long that you can, even whenever they put them in like Guacamelee, you knew what they were because they're memes that have been like that persistent. And the thing about meme culture now is that you could very easily lose the moment and come off.
Well, that's why you have to pick the right ones, and like you have to pick the phrases that have stayed around and that will.
It's not impossible, but I don't know for sure. And I think games will have to be they'll have to be interesting in how they choose to employ them. And I think Guacamelee 2 is a great use of it because instead it took the idea of meme culture and went so old with it with some of the earliest memes that were really around the idea of meme culture and stuck with them. And it made it even more funny because they made a joke about how behind they were. And there was a lot of warning signs that were like cringe inducing. Don't go in. It was, it was funny.
Those warnings are more cringy than the content. Yeah. But, yeah, like Borderlands does a really good job with their humor. So like I feel like if anything, there may be memes created from Borderlands humor.
Maybe.
Like the whole stairs thing with Claptrap in 3 or 2 was like commonly talked about on the internet back then. So who knows?
Yeah, definitely possible. Okay, next question. What do you think would have to happen for Sony to turn around its recent policy on censorship?
There's no real policy on censorship. They've not released a policy for that.
Well, I mean, they've made one statement.
Did they make us? When did that happen?
But it was more around it was a statement of when they introduced it that was essentially saying that they were doing it to be globally, whereas instead of used to, it was like censorship was based off of region. Now they were like, well, we're going to have the same, and that's why Japan got affected so much, is that they were trying to do one that would work on a global basis.
It's stupid. The ESRBs are there for a reason. Let them put anime titties or whatever you want to put into a game that's rated M, because it's rated M. Like, think of the children, or be a good parent and don't buy your children rated games that have that kind of content in them.
Well, and like,
it's that simple.
The real thing is, like, where's the line? Because, you know, you look at Sony, and Sony is the people that had, of course, this is Sony of the past, to be fair.
Right.
But you look at Sony of 7 years ago when God of War Ascension came out, or whatever, that was actually probably like 6 years ago. But, you know, when God of War Ascension came out, and even God of War 3 before it, there was tons of topless women and crazy sex.
And an M-rated game where you have to be 17 years older to buy it.
Exactly. And it was a staple of a Sony exclusive.
It's the same people who are crying about Deadpool having violence. It's like you can't complain about an R-rated movie. Like, that's like, if you can, but you're wasting your time because it's rated R.
Yeah, it was rated. Yeah, it'd be a whole other story.
And that goes the
if
same
somebody
for
went to go
censorship.
watch Deadpool with their kid, and then Deadpool was just as bloody as it was and crazy as it was, but it was rated PG-13.
Yeah.
Somebody said, "Whoa!" But that's it's
one of the biggest long-time things in my head that I've known for probably 15 years now in terms of censorship is that when growing up when playing Yu-Gi-Oh, there are cards in America that are censored compared to adult cards. Now that makes more sense to censor because that's a children's playing card game.
Well, and it's a big cultural shift at a time when you had to do that because we
that
didn't
was
even
also
understand Japanese
early
culture.
2000s too. So like that was a thing in which it wasn't Japanese culture wasn't over here as much.
That censorship has actually gone away on newer cards. It doesn't really happen. It only happened early days because it was aimed at kids, and it was a big time where Harry Potter and Pokemon and all these things were big blown up.
It
in
also
the Christian
required a lot more
forms.
time to. Or a lot more effort to look at porn back then too. Now it's literally on. There's 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, so go back to the question.
Though.
What do you think would have to happen? I think that what will have to happen is enough people have to be vocal and actually boycott and say,
"Yeah, but
we're not going to buy we're going to not buy your console, or we're not going to buy these games on your console." And such a number that Sony drastically realizes the difference, and we might be seeing that. I'm not sure because, like I said, that we talked about in the last episode of the show where the newest DMC5.
We also had a whole episode regarding it too.
Yeah, but the DMC5 patch that removed the censorship here, but not in Europe now, because now that goes off the same thing.
That might be
so no longer is there censorship global. So are they already starting to kind of step down from it?
That might be because of the new UK law things the past couple months, though. I'm not familiar with those, and I know some of our viewers, like Sean, Neo and Sean Rude Cold, can point that out to me and tell me, like...
Well, Sean Santarud did.
Sean Santarud.
Yeah, he did. He said that typically that they've not really had problems with censorship like that as long as they were rated appropriately, which is what I thought. If anything, I actually think that from everything I've seen, and that's what I said to him, Europe seems to have a more easy time getting things by that show off the human body because it's thought of very differently over there than it is in America. We're really weird about nudity over here, and I guess because of I don't know if it's Christianity or what. I genuinely don't, but we have a very different view on. We are far more okay with cussing and blood and violence than we are with seeing somebody's nipple out in public or seeing, boobs in a game. And it's thought of very differently in our culture than it seems over there. So I'm not really sure. And it seems so weird that now we are at a point where Sony or Capcom, but Sony would have had to let Capcom say, we can remove this censor in America, or in North America in general, but we're not going to remove it in Europe. Yeah. And that seems weird to me, and that already seems to be dismantling their global one rule set of censorship. So we might be seeing them return to what they had.
That also might be because of UK law, though, which would be a stipulation.
Well, if UK law is the one that won't let it do it there, but it still comes down to the point of it's still not global, because if UK law was going to be the thing, then they would have kept ours. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you can't make memes in UK now or something weird.
No, Lord.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know.
I don't know about that. I don't want to speculate on anything I don't know about. But
I know it's there. It's just that people are having to find weird ways to avoid it, or maybe it's something that's going to happen or potentially happen soon. But yeah, so my thing is if things are rated for a reason, There are things though that aren't like properly rated. Then yeah, you can like call for it if you want. My whole thing is like it comes down like I don't have an opinion on it. Just vote with your wallet and don't be dumb and say like, oh, this movie's rated R. We need something that's not rated R because think of the children. It's like it's rated R. Like don't think of the children. It's not meant for children, and that's pretty much my stance on it.
Yeah, I think the other thing that might need to happen is just, and it might actually be happening, with Jim Ryan taking over as.
I'm still curious how this is gonna go.
Well, that's one of the things. Leadership change up might change it.
Yeah.
So
we'll
that
see.
Actually might be the beginning of the dismantling of it. We'll see.
I do think
those are the two things, though. It's either going to have to be market driven or it's going to have to be driven by change within the leadership inside.
Well, and to clarify part of my statement too is that like I don't think that you should try to censor anybody's culture just because it doesn't align with yours. If you're going to have it anyways, like if you're going to present somebody else's culture and things in that culture are different, you shouldn't go about censoring part of it because then that takes away from their culture. So, I think I said that. I think I said something very similar into the episode we did about censorship, so I thought I'd bring it back up in case people haven't watched it yet.
Gotcha. All right. If there was a PS5 announcement with a standard option and a modular option, would you buy the modular version or not?
Yes.
Now, this does tie into something that Kiki asked, and I'm going to go over to that real quick. On Twitter, Kiki asked, Triangle Square, do you guys think consoles will ever become like PCs in the future in the sense of like being able to change parts and such to upgrade them? Would you be open to that idea?
Yes.
So you've already laid your say on that.
They already are on a small level, hard drives. Like, and that's been a thing for like the past almost decade now, which is a small...
More than that. PS3 was able to do it from launch. Yeah. So that's been...
I keep forgetting PS3 didn't launch a decade ago.
Yeah,
it's been a time.
2007, so
12 years.
12 years ago.
So yeah, I think that we're getting there. I think that it just depends. It's really gray waters, murky waters because it's one of those things that's like it just depends on if they want to do that or not. And I think the first console manufacturer to do that will fail, but I do think that eventually it could become a norm. I'm all for it though. Like let me get a boneless pizza.
The reason I say not is because we've already seen a computer market that had somewhat changeable modular systems try and break into the home console piece, and it was obvious that people didn't want it. Steam boxes were trying to do
those
that.
are failures regardless. Like the Steam boxes, the Alienware thing, which is essentially a Steam box, like those are failures from the get-go.
But why do you think?
Because they were a product that nobody really wanted. Like when you think about it.
But what are the whole idea is that they are a console at that point that you can easily hook up and plug in, and it's
that you're streaming a lot of games on though.
No, you can play and plug, and a lot of the games play naturally. You can download them and play them.
Steam box, you could not do that.
Well, the Alienware one you could.
No, the Steam box. No, never mind. I'm thinking of the Steam Link.
Okay. The Steam boxes. I was about to say the Steam boxes were real hardware. Now, but when you look at that, those are games you could literally download games directly to it. It used the TV UI.
Are those modular though?
Yeah. You could change things on them. Now, it didn't end up working out because nobody ever made any of the rest of the parts for them because they didn't sell well enough.
And I do remember specifically Alienware being way too overpriced for what they were.
Alienware
that's natural.
Also a name brand, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, but what it comes down to is people still didn't care for that because it takes away from the accessibility of a console. Now, there's two reasons to that. Part of the reason price is also the other reason that price is like that is the reason that these consoles are able to come out at a competitive price with somewhat at least competitive performance that would last the whole generation is because they use the same hardware the whole way through, right? So when you look at the PlayStation 4 and you buy a PlayStation 4 right now, unless you buy the Pro, which is a different SKU completely and costs more because of it, then you're able to buy a console throughout the entire generation that has the same innards, maybe a little bit, they may have found a way to make the chipset smaller so it's more power efficient and all that, like they did with the PS4 Slim, but essentially what it comes down to is that they're doing that, so they're getting these parts at wholesale pricing and being able to be competitive with that pricing. The other benefit that offers is that every person who makes a game for that console understands the exact, and we've talked about this a lot, it helps with optimization. A lot of computer games are not well optimized because they have to account for every single type of combination you could have, be it a certain AMD processor with a specific NVIDIA graphics card, an Intel processor with a certain AMD graphics card. These are all problems that a lot of things have problems trying to do better optimization because you're optimizing for a massive a number of possibilities. Where on console, even with our current climate, if you're developing a game for PS4, you're making it for either the PS4 SKU where you understand what those sets are, or you're making it for the Pro, and well, you're doing it for both if you're choosing to support Pro, which most people are. So when you look at it that way, you're still only developing for two outcomes.
I keep forgetting that is a point of not argument, but a conversation with that it does force developers to make, if they have 5 graphics cards, they have to make varieties of 5 different games to put on those graphics cards. Right?
So
since it's such a weird proprietary system.
If that becomes a thing, then there's a chance that by doing so, certain games will not actually be compatible with the new modular one that you put in for whatever reason. So I'm not against the idea as much as I want to make sure that they'd be able to tell me how these problems that I'm bringing up are going to be able to be sidestepped because they've already pre-thought it out, and this is something that can easily be done, and that people don't have to patch games for them to support this new mode for whatever reason it is. It's just, and the other thing I think is that a lot of people get a little scared of that. There is part of the reasons people love consoles is that it's very easy to go, you know what, I'm buying a console, even the Pro, with it being more powerful, and I'm pulling it out of the box, plugging it in, and it's already powerful. And people like that. You know, if they would have gone about making the Pro by going, hey, here's a PS4, and if you want to, you can switch this thing out, and you can come, and what you do is you'll spend another $200, and it actually may have been more successful, who knows, but people like the idea of pulling something out of a box, plugging it in, and it works completely out of the box with no weird, confusing steps, you know? So...
By the way, this Alienware Steam machine, don't ever purchase that. For $500, your graphics card, it's not even listed. It's NVIDIA GeForce GTX GPU.
Probably one of the
2 gigabyte.
Probably one of the laptop
2 gigabyte.
I guarantee you it's one of these.
2 gigabyte.
Yeah, it's probably an APU.
This is $500.
Probably not for $500. I doubt it'd be an APU at that point. Who knows? Could be. All right, next one up, though.
Remember, you got an announcement we're going into quickfire mode or not.
Yep. Could you see another company breaking into the mainstream video game console market, and what would it take for one to do that? Right now, it looks like
Google doing it.
Google is wanting to do it. What it's going to take from them is realistically, to me, if we're talking mainstream, it's going to have to take it not being a streaming thing, at least not in the current climate of internet. Now, maybe 10 years from now, if they can hold on that long, maybe even 5, I'll give them a little bit. 5 years from now, if they can hold on and there's a lot of work done to make internet more, all the problems that we've brought up about internet data caps and stuff like that, if they can get to that point and can hold on that long, then there's a chance they could really break in and do a lot of success whenever the whole gaming market is moved a little more towards that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, for another thing to break them into the market would be their already established brand and company, and I think Google is one of the best ones to do it too. So we're going to see how that works.
And the reason we know that even works is that the last 2 times that real people broke into the mainstream gaming market was Sony, an electronics corporation that was huge. They broke into it, and then the next one that tried breaking into it and succeeded and stayed around was Microsoft. Again, a big, huge, multi-billion-dollar company that had global recognition of name. It does help a lot to break you in. We've seen a lot of people try and break in, even in the niche market, and still fail. Game systems like the Ouya and things like that.
That wasn't even a brand before. That was
exactly. It was something off the ground, kickstarted.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those examples of it's something very hard to do. You need to have a presence, and I think Google has that. But I think if Google would have started off with some kind of a console that could also benefit from the streaming aspect, it would have been an easier transition. I think that they're a little too ahead of the curve. And you could even argue that PlayStation's even further ahead of the curve, considering they started doing streaming 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But it's obvious that PlayStation benefited from the Gaikai acquisition in other ways that worked out for them that probably made it worth it, but we still see it going on, and it's worth it for Sony, who also has a very thriving PlayStation that they can sit there and they turn their entire Sony around, which is very important to think about with the way that Sony views PlayStation, how important it is to them. It's just Google's going to have to think the same way. If this is going to be their gaming thing and they're going to strive on this, it's going to have to be knowing it's going to be at the cost of this not really doing all that well until they can finally get to a point where everything else is coalesced to make it easy for most people. There's a lot of things going for them. I think the YouTube integration of being able to watch a video and immediately click on something and play, if it works as they intend, within 2 seconds you'll be playing the game. That's awesome. If it does work that way.
I agree.
And being able to immediately stream yourself to YouTube at the same time, awesome. You know what I mean? So It's one of those things where it may happen, and I'm curious to see if it's going to end up happening, but we'll see in a little while. So next question. This one I would say is a quick fire. So EDM or country music?
I did not hear what you just said.
EDM, electronic dance music, or country music?
I guess EDM.
Old country. I'm going to specify, but
actually,
old
you
country.
know what? Yeah, I'd rather go old country. Like Alan Jackson, Shania Twain, George Strait. Yeah, I'll go that.
The best part about being a woman.
I thought you were about to sing Folgers. The best
the
part about
prerogative.
waking
Oh
up.
boy. All right, let's see. If you had to choose between creating a popular band or a popular podcast as your legacy, which would you prefer? Boy, this is a question aimed right at my heart.
Yeah, I was gonna say podcast because I'm not really a musician anymore. So
Okay, I'm gonna say podcast because of.
Boy, there's a quick fire question. Do you want to know because of?
Hold on, I have to for my own self. Real quick, it is real quick. Podcasts spur more discussion, and I think in the long run, discussion can be so much more broad, and it can do more good than music has the ability to within this confines of a band. All right.
What is my computer doing?
I don't know. Dying?
No, it's at 46%.
So I don't know, buddy. Look, next one. If you had to choose between, or if you were forced to at gunpoint to dye your hair an unnatural hair color, what would you choose?
Brown.
Unnatural hair color.
Brown.
Brown is natural.
It's not my natural though. He didn't specify.
Fine. I'm gonna go blue. I like blue.
I'd probably go light blue. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pull a ninja.
Yeah. Okay. Would you prefer identity theft or organ theft?
Organ theft. Identity theft. I will still be living. I'm not gonna be in a bathtub somewhere with stitches on my back for my kidneys.
But what
being
organ's
gone.
gonna go missing? Is it one of my kidneys?
Would you take the chance?
Well, I mean, I
You
get
can
kidney,
get
I get
back from
kidney
identity
stones
theft.
anyway, man. I could just.
You can't just take a kidney out though and just. I don't think this is surgical, because identity theft can't really be done non-criminally. So I'm gonna think you're getting your organ criminally taken away from you.
Yeah, but you've never seen people wake up in a bathtub with a suture because they got a doctor who knew what he was doing, who's doing this in the black market.
No, I'm good.
Yeah, so
Doctors in the black market don't leave you sit in a bathtub.
all right. The rest of the quick fires are, let's see, favorite kind of dog.
Hot.
See, that was going to be my joke, and I ruined it.
I heard you say that. I'm like, I don't.
Okay,
hot dogs.
Ooh,
I'm a cat person.
Pitbull.
Weird question or an answer for that. I wasn't expecting Pitbull.
Why? That's what Vash is, and Chocolate Lab. But
I was like mainly Chocolate Lab.
No, that boy's half and half.
Yeah.
And I also just love pit bulls in general. Saw one at the hotel and I was gasping. I was like, oh, I need it. Let's see. Beef or pork hot dog? Beef.
Yeah, I was going to say, what kind of question is that? I mean, I'm obviously going to eat more pork hot dogs, but like, that shit comes with the territory. What?
Sorry.
You can't be looking at these quick fire questions, read them like that. You got to read them as you go.
It's because you were answering. Okay, Dijon or regular mustard?
Regular.
I hate mustard, so neither. This is the last one we're going to do because there's a bunch, and we're going to save the rest of these.
We have a mark cut off.
What are your favorite 16 numbers, expiration dates, and security codes?
I don't know.
Do you get it yet?
Is it pi?
He asked about identity theft earlier. And he said, what's your favorite 16 numbers, credit card, expiration date, and security code?
I get it.
Yeah.
You're sly.
All right, and then we have one question down here from Mr. Josh. It says, how many PS4 controllers have you bought?
5. Over the course of owning it, I have had 5. I've had the standard black one. Oh my gosh. I just hit the mic thing again, and that hurt.
Okay, hold on, though. How many have you bought? Or do we want to include the ones that come with your PS4?
No, I was just leading off with that one.
Okay, I'm about to say, but do we want to include it?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so, because it comes with the console.
It's included, yeah. So I bought another black one to play multiplayer games with me and my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife. But we had we got another black one after that one had broke. That actually stepped on it while we were playing Overcooked because we were sitting in our living room floor. And I got up, stepped on that one.
Saw a step on a lot of controllers.
I have stepped on a lot of controllers. Then I had the bright red one, which the battery pack in that one actually died. I had the clear one that I bought to replace the black or the bright red one, which was really, really cool. But I got that knocked off the counter by my cat, and I don't know what happened there, but I actually tried taking it apart, and I could not figure out what went wrong. And it just I couldn't get it fixed. So now I have the Navy. It's like Glacier Blue controller. I think is what it's called. Maybe that's the Microsoft Xbox controller. Like it's
your dark one.
Yeah, it's like a dark blue, but it's not navy.
It's like royal, midnight blue or something
midnight.
Like that.
Yeah. And now I have that one. Actually, no, 6 because I did have another one that I did. I actually broke by an accident because I raged at Destiny, and it was one of those times in which I had the PS4 controller in my hand, and I just meant to it was doing something in Gambit, and my teammate was being really really annoying, and I went to go kind of hit it on the arm of my chair. For those watching the YouTube video, you'll see what I mean, like this with my fist. But when I went to do that, I missed, and the analog stick clipped the edge of the chair, and it bent the analog stick and made it lazy, and you can't fix that. I took that controller apart, and I took all the rubber bands off, and I put it all back in place, and it still would not hold in spot. It was dead.
Yeah. Let's see. Right now, I bought an extra one whenever I bought the console at launch. So that's one. I bought... See, all the ones I've bought so many PS4s at this point that I can't only count. So I've only bought 3. I bought the extra black one. I bought the Goku controller that I have, and I bought the Uncharted blue gray.
That's my least favorite color of any
that blue gray.
Yeah, I do not like that color.
Loved it. I still have it. So
I'm still kind of sad I didn't get that Xbox controller that I wanted.
See, I bought 3. I've had more than that because right now I have my see-through blue one that comes from the 500 million special edition console they did. I have the controller that came with the 20th anniversary PlayStation 1 colored console that they did. That's not the same as the anniversary one that you could buy from the store. It's got a special touchpad engraving and whatnot. And yeah, that's it.
That was all the.
Oh, well, okay. I could count that one as 4. The triangle squared one, but that was kind of different.
Have we ever used that controller?
I have used it once just to see if it was better or not, and it was. But it just sits. It's for looks.
Gotcha. Was that all the Facebook questions?
Not all the Facebook questions.
Okay.
But if you want to loop something else in, you can go ahead and do some of them. This was the last of this bracket.
No, let's just get Facebook out of the way so I can do timestamps easier.
Okay. Well, I got to scroll up to find it because of the way that
Facebook happened
works.
again. And
the flash of the TV?
No, it's the light. It's everything. And I'm kind of worried we're going to lose power. See it?
I haven't seen it up here, though.
It's literally doing it up there. That's why that's flashing. It's a TV flashing. It's a light. See?
I saw it again. Well, here's the hope, and we don't.
I swear. I promise you guys, if this happens, you're not getting remail number 7.
They can't even hear it if that happens.
Did we do the thing where if it shuts off for power, does it still save it?
Yes, it does.
Okay, cool.
All right, here we go with the rest of them. Mr. Josh Ayers says, what is the longest game you have gotten the platinum in? Oh, God.
Bloodborne, I guess.
The longest game? Man, I don't know. That's
the one.
That's a weird question.
That's the one I spent the most time on it, just due to the nature of the game. I always spend hundreds of hours on the Souls games because I'll play them once, and for an example, on Sekiro, I am at 30 hours and I'm on the last boss. I'm at almost exactly 38 hours when I checked that yesterday. And then I'm gonna replay it again 3 or 4 times to find all the secrets on my own. Use a guide to find the rest. Probably try to get the platinum because I actually like the game enough to get a platinum in it enough. And then attempt to speedrun it. So, yeah, by nature, Bloodborne, I guess.
Okay. Well, I'm going to say longest game from a just general standpoint that I have a platinum in.
My name is Mayo.
Probably one of the Far Cry games in terms of...
Oh, yeah. Them were too grindy for me.
Well, I don't know because if it's time 2 platinum, then it's Terraria. We've already talked about that a number of times, though.
Yeah, that's true.
It took me
that took you 4 years.
Yeah, essentially,
3 years.
But a bunch of going in and out of it. I'd say probably hour-wise, probably 300 hours. So, all right. Next up, Josh Shoop asks, "What's the manliest movie ever made? Any answer outside of Predator is unacceptable."
I mean a lot of flack for this, but I hate the original Predator movie. A lot. I don't like that movie at all.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting, man. Predator's an awesome movie.
Yeah.
For the time, to be fair. But it's still a good movie.
I am much more of an Alien fan.
Oh, yeah. But Predator. Alien as a whole different setup. Alien is awesome. It's not necessarily the epitome of what society would consider manly at the time period.
I think I got scarred by PTSD because of Predator when I was young. I remember it was one of those times in which I'm trying to catch a nip slip on HBO and I'm 8 years old. And Predator was on. And it was Predator 2. And that's when they're in New York. And I'm like, what is this weird movie? And then I saw Predator. I'm like, well, nope, not watching that. And I got scared. So scared that I could not sleep that night. And I tried to rewatch Predator 1 years later. I'm just it's too far after the time of which I should have watched it for me. It's one of those things that it's hard to watch like something that's old and black and white for me because it's just like it's out of my era. So Predator.
I have to look real quick at the. Oh, I think it's. I don't even care for them because I hate the movies.
It's the Expendables.
The Expendables. Yeah, the Expendables is the manliest.
That was the first
movie
thing. So I guess I'm gonna guess that because that's the first thing that popped in my head.
Yeah.
When I heard the manliest, whenever I heard the manliest of anything, like before he even said movie, I thought of the Expendables just because of its cast.
Yeah.
Even though I've never seen a single one. But
Hey,
I'm going to go with that just because the cast.
You ready? Josh asked. Same Josh. Have you guys ever considered doing game reviews? Now that you are tackling journalism, it certainly could be something worth checking out. Just be ready for lots of criticism, even with your normal articles.
I have done 3 game reviews. Almost published one of them. I want to apologize to Josh Fairhurst. For those that don't know, we have gotten one early review copy for something as we've done this. And we got it for,
Saturday morning
RPG. And I played that and I beat it. And I thought it was a cute game and that it's worth playing if you like that. Once again, that's very related to the Predator. It's one of those things that I wasn't born in the 80s time zone that this was kind of taking place in. But it was a really cute and charming game. And I didn't enjoy it that much. But I had a video up and edited everything. And something kept happening with us. Like we just couldn't get it out. And then it came way too far after review or for launch. And I still probably have that video. Do I still have that video? Yeah. Okay. That's still on my new computer. For some reason, I thought it was on my old computer. So I still probably have that video up somewhere. But it was recorded with a video, script, everything. I showed Brett like a clip of it.
Yeah.
From my phone. Because I was proud when I got it done. But something happened, and I can't remember what it was, that we just never ended up getting it out. And I think that it might have been because we couldn't figure out intro graphics at the time for something. And then something
I honestly
else.
don't. It's been so long.
It's been a long time. It's been about a year and a half now.
So obviously Saul has the want to do it. I'll say this. I'm never going to say never. Reviews are such a weird thing that I honestly have said from the get-go I prefer, and we just haven't had time for it either, and it's just a number of reasons. It's us trying to do more with the show outside of just Triangle Squared, trying to start up the off-topic podcast. I have another show that I've been working on so much, and I can't figure out this one technical thing, so I've actually laid off of it about a week and a half because it's just been frustrating me.
It's been a big old quest for you.
Yeah. But anyway, with, I like the idea of impressions more because what it does is it kind of lets you do a review in a more chilled out, relaxed, and kind of discussed orient. And I like being able to bounce my ideas off someone else's and see. So it's kind of the idea again that you may say something that you were too shallow in your thought on, and then the other person says something that doesn't quite line up with you, and it kind of forces you to think and go, you know what? Yeah, I think you're right on that. And I think it lends to a better discussion that you can really listen to see if it sounds like the game is for you or not. But that depends on what style of review you like.
That's the tricky thing with reviews is that shortly after there may be a comment that may sway you, but your review set in stone. That's not something you can really go back and edit constantly. That's not the...
or at least I think once you put out something like that, you really shouldn't. It's like, well, this is my review.
Well,
in the moment, this
is
the
ethic of the review. Yeah. So that's how you felt at that moment. That's what you wrote it on.
Yeah.
So. But I will say that, yeah, I agree. Like, I really still... I have a headset article typed up for jackofallcontrollers.com, the website we write for. And that's ready to go, actually. So, like, I probably should submit that soon. I'm going to read it over once again. I may even send it to Rhett to read to see what he thought of it. But basically, I took 5 headsets that I've had throughout. I've had way more than 5 headsets, by the way. Brett can attest to that. But I took 5 headsets that I thought would be the ones that you would look at and tell you why you shouldn't buy them. Spoiler alert, never buy the Sony Silvers. But Brett, next question.
All right, still from Josh Shoop. He says, what is a conspiracy that you actually can buy into? And real quick, Donovan said, the Trump family time travel. Have you seen this one?
Yes, I have. Donovan, you're an idiot.
And he said Nikola Tesla conspiracy because Tesla was tied into that.
Yeah. A conspiracy theory.
Or Tesla's work was tied into that. But anyway.
There's a couple. It's crazy that you asked that, Josh, because I love conspiracies and I like your podcast about them too.
Yeah. Shout out to our boy Josh. What is his podcast name?
Why would you do this to me? It's the same thing with War Groove.
I know. Oh, Lord.
I was literally about to say it.
It's going to kill me.
Josh, we're not good friends. I'm sorry. No, it's one of those times in which I was literally about to say it, and then Brett thought about it.
I know.
Oh, man, that's going to bother me. But anyways, now I can't even think of a conspiracy theory. I have like 3, in which I think that are so crazy they have to be true.
Okay, Saul has one. Death Stranding is actually PT.
Yes. That one, that has lost traction throughout the years. I was heavily into the Kool-Aid on that one.
Okay, I think it's Conspiracy Therapy.
Yes.
Yeah. So shout out to that. It took us long enough. What do you think? Do you
I'm
buy...
really trying to think. There's something...
Okay,
me and Joe were talking about this the other night until like 3 a.m. On a PlayStation party about conspiracies. And
okay, I think this is one real quick, and I'm just going to see if you've even heard of it. I had to remember that was his name or not.
I have heard
of
it, yeah.
Whether H.H. Holmes or not was Jack the Ripper.
Yeah.
I think that one has some credibility.
Oh my gosh! Now I can't think of anything.
This is riveting podcasting. So
I feel like I had a brain aneurysm. Ted Cruz is the Zodiac Killer. But to be serious, there is a couple, and I can't. This is what sucks is that like I can't think of them. But there are some that are actually like they sound ridiculous, but then when they're explained out, and you know what? I'm just gonna go look real quick because I know where I saw it at. But
the thing about conspiracy theories, it gets really weird, and we talked about this on the test episode we did for the off-topic podcast, is that, they are so crazy, but a lot of the time you end up hearing them or seeing the information from one side that's giving you the information in such a way that it feels like it's too uncanny to not be true. But when you actually dig further and start looking around, that you start seeing a lot of conflicting information, and it makes it to where it's not as in your head of like, well, this is for sure what happened, so this is very likely the conspiracy happened this way.
I can't find it, but I just now remembered what it was. It was that the 9-year or 10-year selfie challenge is a thing so that it can treat Google or other software, any kind of facial recognition software to recognize your face by submitting 2 pictures 10 years apart to an algorithm.
Oh, so they can understand how you've changed in your 10 years?
Yes.
Yeah,
so
that's actually not that crazy sounding of a thing.
That was one. I did see, because one of my favorite things to do on Reddit is to go through Ask Reddit and go through the most popular posts of all time and favorite them and read through them. But I think there was one about music that I saw that I can't remember what it was, and it involved the Beatles, Journey, Rolling Stones. It involved a couple of Led Zeppelin, like some of the older bands.
Okay.
And how they're all connected by one record label that was never really a record label, and how like you would know that they're all by this one record label, and it was a big scheme, and it was basically that these bands all came out within a similar time era, and they started with like the Beatles, and then they followed with Led Zeppelin, and then Journey. Like they almost went through decades throughout the past.
Okay.
And they were like, these bands came out and they were formulated to compete for the biggest popularity at the time. And they showed you graphs and stuff about like their popularity change. And it was like someone sat in their room for hours to plan this conspiracy theory out. I'm going to believe it's true just for the sake of that individual sanity. But it was so detailed. There was a Google Drive document with 300 pages explaining the history of these bands and like why they correlate to each other.
Yeah. So, and I don't know how you want to consider it because how deep and how important it was.
I love conspiracy theories.
But one of the conspiracy theories that I was really behind for a long time, and then it actually ended up coming out as true, was when a lot of people, me included, would say that Apple would purposely go through and essentially, like, what would the word be? They would stifle your old phone or whatever you even want to use. So they would specifically lower the power and make it. People would always say they make it more buggy, so you want to buy the new one.
Every single phone company does that. It's just Apple got caught. Samsung does that without a doubt. From having Note 4 from that launch to like 2 years later was like almost unusable because constantly had to be plugged in.
Yeah. But you know what's
luckily
funny?
That's not a thing lately.
What it's come down to is it's not a conspiracy theory in the sense of like, honestly, it's not even, it's not that it's ill intent. It might be. I mean, but they do have a basis of reality, which was
it makes sense.
When they came out and it was found, it was Apple saying, well, your battery degrades over time. So to make your battery last as long as you're expecting the battery to, what we do is we underclock the processor so that it doesn't expand your battery too much so that you still get a reasonable thing.
Yeah. Now
what
you can
people want is, you should be able to say, I either want my phone to be stifled so I get the battery life that I use, or I want it to stay at its thing, and then if I choose to have to replace my battery to keep the experience up, then I can do that. But that was one I was really behind, and of course it finally came out as true. So, but I know that he probably means on a more grand scheme than that one. I just think that one's pretty funny.
There's a cool, interesting theory that all dogs are demons.
I've heard that one.
It's because, like...
But that makes no sense to me.
They play it on deception, because Lucifer is the great deceiver. And that they say that what is the one thing that you would never realize you're being deceived, and that's man's best friend. It was not man's best friend.
Yeah.
Y'all go check it out.
Next question from Josh Hoop. He says, do you fellas believe in ghosts? Any experiences?
Yes, absolutely. And I've told an experience before about my grandfather's cabin on the podcast before.
You have?
Actually didn't.
Do you think that this is a question?
I think he asked that question. Did you ask that question before, Josh? I think you did.
And you don't realize? Who knows?
But yeah, like I had that experience, and I had one more experience that I think I was gonna tell, but I might not have. Like, let me know if
it sounds familiar.
If it sounds familiar, yeah. But it was me, Seth, and Dad were out hunting when we were younger, and we stopped hunting around. I was 13 or 14, so it was around there. And we would do these. We would get in these tree stands, and we'd get out there at like 4:30 to 5 a.m. in the morning, still dark, and I would pretty much fall asleep with Seth. Like, we would sit there, we like sit up in the tree stand side by side, and
sleep on each other's shoulders, essentially.
No, like I'm one of those that can like lean my head back and fall asleep. That's why I got neck problems. But it was basically a bench style seating, and it would fit me in the middle, my little brother to my right, and my dad to my left. And I would fall asleep. Like I wouldn't make sounds when I slept. My dad didn't care. He was just trying to hope we would go with him on this kind of adventure. And spend time with them, and it was fun. But you know, being 13 or 14 into video games, hunting is not something you wanted to do. But we were out there one morning, and we would always go hunt in a city called Arkadelphia, which is about an hour and 10 minutes away from here. And we had a cabin, and I told the story about the cabin before, and that was essentially seeing a ghost of my dad's old friend. But this one was more vivid to me, and I still kind of chalk it up to being a dream. And I just fell asleep on the in the deer stand, and I remember I woke up, and it was dusk or dawn, technically dawn, and you could see like sunlight beaming through the trees, and it illuminated some parts of the woods we were in. Some parts were darker than others, but it was generally just kind of a pinkish, like red sky as the sun rises. And I'll never forget it. I like woke up, and I'm sitting there, and we had a little bottle of water and a little thing of graham crackers. And I was just like, I took a sip of my water, and I turned to look at Seth, my brother, on my right, and I see it directly head on is something there. And I'm just like, I don't know what that is, but I see it. And it's partially dark, but not too dark. But there's something that I am aware of is standing and looking at me, and it is not an animal. It is a human. But I can't tell if it's a man or female, man or female. I can't tell if it is old or young. I just see like something there, and I blink and it's gone. And it's just like, I can't think back to like that and like, was that a dream? And I really hadn't woken up yet, and it's ingrained in my memory as that. But whatever it is, I still can't to this day describe what I was looking at. All I know is that imagine if a room is pitch black, and you've been in that room for say 2 or 3 minutes now, and your eyes have somewhat adjusted to the darkness, but not all the way, and you look in the corner, you see somebody standing there. You can make out what that person is. Your brain kind of fills in the rest. It was like that.
Sure.
But I don't know. Like I said, I'm pretty sure that was a dream, but it felt real to me. And I remember being shooken up for the rest of the day because of it. Because I remember I was like, Dad, what is that? And thinking it had hid behind a tree or something. Because when I mean it was gone, when I blinked, it was literally like, I like blinked and it was literally nowhere in sight, and it was next to a tree. So my dad actually took his rifle scope, and he actually aimed it at the tree to our right, and we were sitting there, and he stared at it for a solid 5-10 minutes, and I stared at that tree, not blinking, not doing anything, and nothing was behind that tree.
Did you tell your dad what it was? Like what you thought?
I couldn't describe it at that age. I basically told him that there was somebody over there, and so of course we're hunting. My dad's like, people out here with guns, so we were gonna be safe about it. He called out 3 or 4 times, and then didn't hear nobody call back. And this tree was from here to like your TV in there, like 20 feet away from me at most. Yeah. And then so he took the rifle scope off the rifle and aimed it straight down and just kind of used it as a binocular. And so like, he kind of stood there for a second, and like, I don't guess he may have saw anything or couldn't see anything because how close we were, but he just sat there and stared at it with me. And he's like, there's none over there, son. And like, I'll never forget, I never took my eyes off that spot for the rest of the time we were there, which was about another 5 minutes. Because I was like, I got to go pee. We got to go. I ain't going to pee alone.
I've said this before. I'm fairly positive, but I'm in the firm belief of no. And there's a number of reasons. I mean, I'm not really a religious person, and even then, I actually find it really odd. And I mean, not to hate on any of the religious thing, I just find it really odd when I know of religious people who consider that to be real. And dude, that's so much more sad if you think that that's like if you're religious and you fall in the camp that ghosts would exist. It's like that means that these people have not been able to do what you think that they're intended to do.
Yeah,
which there's a lot of different views of Christianity on that anyway. There's people who believe that you don't go to heaven or hell until the day of the rapture and the day of judgment. There's people that believe that once you die, you go to heaven.
I've never heard either one of these. Like, especially the once you die, free ticket to heaven thing.
No, not a free ticket to heaven. But once you die, you go to heaven or hell. Like at that moment, like once you pass, you go to judgment then and there. Then there's other people that think you don't get judged until the day of reckoning.
I've never heard that. That's a super interesting thought process there.
Yeah. So and they think in between your soul just becomes like your soul just kind of left until the day that Jesus comes and asks us to rise and follow him. And then at that time, everyone who believed in him at any point in time will follow him. I'm pretty sure, to be fair, this is after a lot of conversations with some of my religious friends. I used to consider myself an atheist, but I've come to the point where I do think it's foolish to believe wholeheartely in either sense, in my own opinion. So I think it's foolish for me to say that I know without a doubt that there's absolutely nothing there. But I also think it's a little foolish to know without a doubt that there is something there. And that's just my personal view on it. So I leave it at that. I guess I'll say I'm agnostic at this point. I don't really think that there's anything there, but I'm not foolish enough to think that I, as a person, am smart enough to be able to declare that with absolute factual.
That's kind of what I go towards. I know that we talked about this.
I don't know why that got in there. I guess because to me, ghosts are always weird because
it's a spiritual thing.
It really is a spiritual thing. I mean, it's based around the idea that you have a belief that our soul lives on after our body. So it does depend on the way that you view the world. And I mean, personally, I've never had any experiences. I've had experiences where I've been scared of things, but I always have been able to rationalize what it was that scared me in the first place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've never had a moment where I've been deathly terrified of something and have not been able to explain it. It may be that. I think experiences can definitely guide that. I think that there are some people who, like, if we want to talk about ghosts and aliens are very similar in the sense that people be like, well, there's really no way to prove either way if your experience happened. But the thing about aliens is it's the same thing. There are people that very seriously haven't experienced it for whatever reason. They are entirely sure in their mind that it was aliens, and they can't shake it. And I think that you have that a little bit, with your experience. Definitely the cabin experience.
The cabin experience is like that was a ghost, but this experience was like I don't know what that was. I'm pretty sure it's a dream. I just tell myself it's a dream because I can't. There's no logical explanation in my head for anything else.
Yeah.
Like not even a ghost, like to me. That's not something that I would have been a ghost. So
yeah. Okay, next one up. If you were picking up road munchies, what do you get?
Beef jerky. Like that's it. Like beef jerky, I guess. Like I was trying
So do we include drinks in this?
Turkey bites. Yeah, I guess so.
Go for it. What do you get to drink with your beef jerky?
White Powerade.
White Powerade.
Yeah, that sounds really weird when you say it slowly. But yeah, like white, it's Glacier Cherry, I think is what it's really called. That might be.
Have you ever seen that meme that has all like the Power Rangers saying like what red power, black power? And they get to the White Ranger and he's like, well, damn.
I think it is Glacier
meme.
Cherry, white cherry, but like.
White cherry Powerade. I've never had that.
It's just the white one. It's good. It's my favorite.
Okay, I'll try that.
Gatorade has a Glacier Cherry. I'm pretty sure is what theirs is called, which is white too. And theirs is really heavy on cherry, where this isn't.
Kind of like the white when you get like an icy and it's white, but it's white cherry.
Very similar to that, yeah.
Yeah.
Except
I love white cherry.
Powerade has just, it's almost like it's light on the cherry, but it's something, I can't describe it. It's good.
Okay. That makes sense.
Turkey bites in that.
My thing is I either swing either way. If I'm leaning towards the sweet side, I'll tend to either get one of those big Texas cinnamon rolls or a blueberry muffin, but the blueberry muffin has to be specific. If it's not Otis Spunkmeyer.
Yep.
I've tried a few that have passed the test outside of that, but it's very rare. Otis. It's very rare that they end up being good at all. A lot of them they're dry and I don't care for them. And they end up kind of making you coffee.
That's what they always are.
It's like, and like, when you eat one, you're like,
yes.
But, I don't care for that.
Always moist. As a matter of fact, I need to go to Amazon right now and look at those.
Buy a box. But yeah, I'll do those. And typically my drink, it used to be a Mountain Dew Voltage. Whenever I was on the road, it can be like my spoiler for myself. I've recently been doing the Mountain Dew Game Fuels because there's less sugar and stuff in them. And I like the way they taste. And I think the can's also really neat.
Because you can close the top of the can.
Yeah, I love that. I think all cans should go that route. I think it's a great operate, but I mean, I'm sure that there's some kind of cost reason as to why it wouldn't be effective. All right, let's see. I think that we have one more set up with a couple here.
Why can't I just buy Blueberry?
Because they don't want you to. Okay, Josh has 2 more questions. What are some of your biggest pet peeves?
I've talked about it before, especially with gaming, and that's like people you're playing with not contributing like they should, and then they're acting like they are, or they're getting mad at people who are contributing. I've gotten into arguments there. And then my other pet peeve is that, like, and for like a real life thing,
Those Destiny raids, man.
dude, those Destiny raids are rough, especially with terrible people.
The upside
you know
is
who you are.
The biggest upside is that at least I can say that me and you and Joe have done a ton of raids together to the point where I never in a raid have we been the source of the problem, and
Nope.
I'm proud of that.
There was one time there was in Taken King and Destiny 1 and King's Fall on hard mode that I was having one problem and I couldn't grasp it, and then I finally did, and that was like 2 wipes worth.
Yeah, but 2 wipes is one thing. Like, you know, when we were going with certain people in the bathhouse and we're going like 50 runs, and you're just like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. My other biggest pet peeve in life outside of gaming is that when people are always complaining, oh, this ain't getting done, and then they don't contribute to getting it done.
It's actually mine.
Yeah.
Those, because I consider those people to be right along with the people. And this is essentially what I mean with that, though, I cannot stand when you have people around you who are essentially just the world's out to get me and everything's out to get me, and they're just like, I can't catch a break. And that's like, you know, my brother is one of the worst people of that, but he's gotten a lot better.
I wasn't going to call your brother out specifically, but like, it seems that the worst dirtbags, and I don't have to call your brother a dirtbag, but in the past, you can kind of get I'm not going to say that.
He knows he's been, I mean.
But no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying the type of person he is and what he affiliated with.
Yeah.
Those type of people are always the ones that, oh, woe is me thing. I was like, you literally put yourself in that position.
And don't get me wrong, every human has a chance, has a time in their life where you feel like it's just that everything's against you. It's like, man, I don't know what's up with this week. It's like the week is out to get me. This whole week has just been bad. But there's a lot difference between, you know, it being 1 or 2 things, or maybe even a week's worth, and then you shake it and you go, that's not how the world works, versus people who spend years drowning in their own pity, just saying that the world is not, you know, the world's out to get me, everyone's out to get me, I can't catch a break, but they don't do a damn thing to change it. That is one of the biggest pet peeves I have. Guess what? Sometimes you either have to understand.
I don't know why it's showing us in the Twitter, but it's showing the freaking woodworking thing. Did you ever change it?
No.
We're still a woodworking podcast on Twitter.
I got to fix that. But yeah, you know, there's a lot of people like that who, exactly what you're talking about, they never do anything to change it. You know, you can't go through your entire life. You either have to accept the situation that you're in because you realize why you're in it and why you're not wanting to go outside of that for whatever reason it be, versus, you know, what you may have to do to be able to change yourself to go towards the positive so that you can say that you've done something to better yourself. I use this as an example with my sister the other day. She's young and asking a lot of questions, and I'm thinking like, well, I just can't get anything to work for me. I was like, listen, that's not the way to look at the world. I was like, you know, the thing of it is, I want to do things in my own life, but I've taken a lot of risk, and I am where I'm at a little bit because of luck, and a little bit because I went above and beyond to push myself and try and get into a better position. Now, I was like, you know, that doesn't mean I'm exactly where I want to be. I'm at a position right now where I have a wife and kid, a wife who's doing a career that's a little volatile, and that she left working and doesn't have steady income and can't pay any of the bills and stuff right now. And I pay for all the bills, and we have a daughter that's about to start school, and right now we're having to pay for her to do all of her daycare and stuff like that, and we'll eventually have to pay for her to go to school wherever we go to school with. So these are things that, you know, I am okay in the career I'm in right now. I'm happy that I'm in it, and I'm appreciative that I've ended up here. But yeah, this is not the end goal for me. But right now, it's too risky for me to quit my job to go and chase after a dream, like doing something like this all day, because I just can't. And that's okay. The world's not out to get me. I've made a conscious decision to not ruin my family's livelihood so that I can put everything I have into doing this. I put everything else I have into doing this as much as I possibly can, but I still have to work because I have a family I have to take care of. So that's my choice. That's not the world out to get me. That's not me going, oh man, the world's put me in this position where I've got this kid and this wife and I can't take any chances. No, you can take chances if you want to. You make the decision whether you do or don't.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's one of my biggest pet peeves. Now, this second question, I just skimmed it a second ago on accident, but it's an interesting question. What is something that you love about each other? What is something that you hate about each other?
I hate how Brett sometimes seems like he's a contrarian.
You know what? I will say this.
But I love that he's a good friend.
Thanks, Saul.
I was like, that's literally like the only thing that every now and then you'll just say something. I'm like, he's just saying that to get on my nerves.
Oh, okay. Now, there are times where I say it on purpose to get on your nerves.
No, I know, but then there's sometimes.
But there are times where, and I've caught myself in it too, and sometimes I really do believe in it, but and it's something I've been working on for years. You can tell, Blaze this too, and it's part of it just happens with growing up and being mature, but like not saying that you automatically hate something when you don't even know what it is.
Yeah, I got to work on that still.
See, and I mean, everybody has it to an extent, but how much do you do it?
A lot.
And it comes down to me. There's a lot of examples of bands that, like, the first time I heard them or saw them, I was like, nah. And then they ended up coming back around to them, and they're one of my favorite bands.
Architects is like that for me. I was like, I don't really like Architects. I listen to Doomsday, I'm like, this ain't really for me. And then now I listen to it again, I'm like, you know what, it did pretty good.
It's a great song, yeah. See, like Hardest, when Blaze first showed me them, it was
man.
it was
I know you're talking about one specific album.
It said Where Did I Go Wrong? It was their first EP, and it was the video for Where Did I Go Wrong? And of course, I couldn't get over because I was probably 21 at the time, and I could not get over the fact that that came out in 2012, so I guess I was 19. I couldn't get over the fact that he had a mullet, and it was stupid to me. And the song was kind of like a catchy. It was a single, so of course I was like, whatever. This is a single, whatever. Guy's got a mullet. This is ridiculous, right? I don't know why, but I let it. Like, I came back to it to show Hannah to make fun of his mullet. Because I just thought it was funny.
And you were like, this is catchy.
And then, hold on. And I was like, well, that wasn't that bad. And then the next song came on, and it wasn't one of the singles, and it was really heavy. And I was like, damn, that was kind of cool. And then I got to the point where I was like, I got to stop judging things off of very little information. And I'll even give the example of, and Blaze knows, I still think that there's a lot of problems I have, and there's a lot of Dance Gavin Dance that I still don't like. But it's trying to stop yourself from automatically having They
got some bangers, though.
They do. And I can still say all day long, my original critique of them is still true. They have dumb lyrics. But have I gotten to the point where I accept what I consider to be the bad and take the good with it? Yeah. And that's kind of like what I was talking about with the whole viewing the world as always against you. That also goes in the way you view things. You don't need to always view everything from a negative standpoint. And I think a lot of people do. We're jaded. But
that's true.
My answer towards you is going to be something that's funny because it's the same answer both ways. Would you care to guess?
No, I have no idea.
Okay. What I love about Saul, actually, I'm going to start with hate because it's more funny.
Something delicious.
That smell good. What I hate about Saul is when you're talking to him, and he does this two different ways. He does it one way where it's serious and he just did not hear you.
I already know what it is.
And then the second one is whenever he's doing it to be funny. But
those times are really rare, just so you know. You know that I do it to be funny when I'm laughing when I do it.
Now, okay, there's the thing that Saul does where if he is for some reason just far enough away from you or in the back seat of a car and you're saying something, or even like you just happen to be facing away from him and you say something because you're looking around.
I have really bad hearing.
He will think that you said something entirely different. And it's not even...
I don't even try to say, what'd you say? I just guess like, what? Like, and I'll say like, Brett could say something like, there are snails in the yard. And I'm like, there are whales where? And it's just like...
It's more than that, though. I said it the other day when we were in Dallas. I was talking to Blaze. I was like, what's so funny about Saul doing that is that sometimes you can kind of understand where he's coming from with what you think he heard.
And then
the other time where it's like, you'll be like, hey, man, can I park my bike here? And you're like, what? You have a house on what street?
Dude, I'm telling you, sometimes my hearing is really, really bad, especially if there's outside music or like in the car with music or traffic.
Yeah.
And like, I'll sit there when you're like, that's what I said. Sometimes... You've said that before, and it's so wildly different. I'm like, he's messing with me. He didn't say that. So like, I try to go through my head, like, how did I hear that? I'm like, he didn't really say that. Now he's just changing it to make it funny.
I have never done that to you, just so you know.
I've guessed that, but I'm like, there are times, specifically in the car, where I'm just like, that's not what he said. He's just messing with me.
Yeah, but I also love it. It's one of those weird things where I hate it because it makes me just groan, and sometimes it's one of those things where it's like depending on my mood. Sometimes I'll already be in a mad mood and you say it, I'm like, God damn it, you idiot. And then there's times where I'm in the right mood and you say it and it just makes me laugh because of how off the wall the crap you come up with is. And it's always one of those things where for me, I'm like, what is this?
Right. And it's totally by accident. There's one or two times, maybe three, that I've done it on purpose because what you said sounds funny.
Yeah. The other thing I'll say, though, and this ties into it just a little bit, is we've talked about this before, I think maybe even on the podcast, is how when there's a long phrase, you start to add certain words into it that aren't there.
It's not a long phrase. It's when I can't remember a phrase, I start to add words to it. And it's it's not even phrases. It's song titles.
So my example for this is that there's a Being as an Ocean song called Grace Teach Us What We Lack.
And Grace is always teaching us what we are lacking. I gotta go to the restroom real quick. I'm gonna let Brett lead off on Twitter.
Okay. Oh, let me get over to that. Okay, let's see. My bad, people. All right, here we go. First question from Twitter, and I'm trying to pull Saul's laptop to me. Sorry. Blake asked, are you ever going to make a Dark Souls remastered custom case with a little sly face there? Blake has been the lucky winner of, I think, the Dark Souls 3 case, or no, the Bloodborne case, I think is what it was. And then he's also a patron of ours, so whenever his 3 months hit and he got to choose one, he chose the Dark Souls 3 one. So right now he's wanting to get another one to fill out his little custom case selection. So I don't know. That's something that we very well might get around into. I need to get back into custom case making. I've just had a lot of personal things I've been trying to take care of while I was also trying to get some shows and stuff off the ground. The off topic is so close to airing. We have a name set in stone. We love it. We're not going to reveal it just yet. We're working on logo. We have a logo set in stone, but we want to go do a little bit more in terms of how we want to set it into the set design and all that. So once I get into a time period where I can, I think I might, because I had some other people ask me, and I think it would be fun to do. I try not to do ones that I don't think will be fun. I also like to really do it whenever they're around the hype of a game, because typically I'm hyped too. So like the Kingdom Hearts 3 case, I had a blast doing, because it was a game I was excited for. It was a fun time to do it. It got a lot of attention, so it was kind of a win-win all the way around. Red Dead Redemption 2 was a very similar situation. I was hyped but also nervous because I didn't know how I was going to feel about it, so I had a lot of fun designing it. And it was from a series that I didn't have a lot of experience with, so we'll see. I might very well do that, and that didn't have anything to do with Saul anyway, so we'll leave it at that. Let's see. Mr. Oathkeeper Kiki, also a patron of ours, says, do you guys feel there should be a limit on how many games a studio is allowed to develop to tell a story? Now, I find this question interesting. I think this probably has something to do with something along the lines of like how we've heard that Final Fantasy VII Remake is going to be potentially broken into 2 or 3 games to tell this same story but with a more fleshed out version of the world around it. So there'd be better side quests, new side quests, new NPCs you'd be seeing. You'd walk around all of Midgar instead of just little coy segments of it. So I think that the question might be aimed towards something like that, or maybe even something like Kingdom Hearts, where they tell the entirety of the Dark Seeker saga took place over like 11 or 10 games. I don't know the exact number because of all the HD remakes. But I don't know. I don't think that there really should be. The thing about it is, I've said it a million times, I don't believe in regulation in that sense at all. I think that just like what we talked about with the most recent episode with Sekiro and the easy mode, is it comes down to what the developer ultimately wants to do, and I don't think that there should be anything that stops them from doing what they want to outside of the normal things that already do that. So like right now, if it comes down to a game developer being like, listen, or the publisher, being like, listen, this game series has not been doing that well. We'll give you one more game to finish it off. Hopefully it sells well enough for it to work. But if you want to finish the story up, you probably want to do it in this one. That'd be a great thing to see. Sometimes it comes down to them trying to set up multiple games, and then the sales just don't hit, and you end up with a game that's set up for a sequel that never gets one because it just wasn't sales worthy for that, or it got too much negative flack in some other way. So either way, I don't feel like that's a fair way to. I don't feel like it's a fair constriction to put on a developer. What do you think, Saul?
100% agree. Everything you said. I think that they should be able to tell their story how they want to tell it, and no kind of regulation or limit should be able to limit that.
And I don't have to agree that it's
unless
good.
It's some kind of abusing the system kind of thing. And I don't even think that a regulation would do that at that point. If someone's abusing it and they know it, then that game will fail. Like truly, like Battlefront 2. That game, there was so many pictures online of and that doesn't exactly correlate to this, but it's just like if a company's doing shady business practices on such a level that people will vote with their wallet enough, then that'll stop them anyway. So regulation would have to step in. I think the gaming communities will do that.
Consumers act as the regulators,
right?
Essentially, but not really, because it still gives the people the freedom to make what they want to make. We just retain our freedom to support what they make, and whether we like it or not. So
right.
We decide whether we want to support it or not.
And gaming communities are a sole purpose for that. And it actually is the answer for another question you have, which is, would you guys like for gaming companies to have Discord servers for their games where the community can give them feedback and such? The best Discord communities for that are the ones that are made by the gaming community themselves, because there's a couple in which devs actually do patrol those Discords. I don't think official Discords for that would be helpful to a sense, because games like Risk of Rain are small, its scope and development and such. So for like World of Warcraft or Destiny or Battlefront or anything like God of War, stuff like that, typically that's not going to be somewhere they're going to go and look for feedback on. It would be helpful, but I don't think it will happen. I think that gaming communities already do a really, really solid job of that themselves, because you can go find Rainbow Six, Destiny, God of War. You can go find millions of Discords for everything, including mediocre PlayStation podcast, and you can easily find that. And I do think that to some extent that a lot of ideas shared there are shared in other places like Reddit, and Reddit actually is by far the best platform for that, because in Anthem, Destiny, Rainbow, Overwatch, even God of War, I've seen developers for those games in those Reddits discussing the games and how they can provide feedback and such. And most of the time, it's not even developers. It's more of not company relations. What is
kind of like the PR people, essentially?
Yeah, I was gonna say, what is I can't even think of his name. My memory has this is like the fourth time this podcast. He's the big PR guy for Destiny. Everybody loves bald guy.
I don't know about that one. Because I don't really keep up with Destiny on the social media side.
No. But he is...
Well, a lot of these companies have social media people that are involved in doing this. They're meant to be like community heads, and they'll go out there and take questions and feedback from the community and kind of field them and act as a spearhead and a figurehead for the community to come in and view it, you know?
Yeah, and I can't think of his name, but shout out to him, because he's constantly on the Destiny subreddit, and he's Cosmo. He's constantly help relaying messages to and from Bungie to the community and stuff, and he's a really stand-up guy. So. Okay.
Well, I think it's an example. Death's Gambit had one of these, but I think when you have games release in
standard.
Well, okay, I think Death's Gambit was the team's first game, and they were taking a big risk by coming to console at the same time, and there were problems with it, sadly. But I think that to an extent that's needed. You know what I mean? And I think a game like Dead Cells might be able to benefit from that as well, when you're going into something like early access and you're kind of trying to be like, all right, well, we need quick feedback that matters to an extent, and that's why they kind of do that.
You answered Kiki's question. That's for next week.
You brought it up.
You did not. I was in the bathroom when you brought that question.
I thought this was... You know what?
See, I made the same mistake last week, but it was fine. It's fine. Sean One Neo says, which engine do you think developers consider the best platform for creating games on? Unity.
I have not heard that.
No, that's what I think. I think that's one of the best ones because it's so universally known at this point. Unity or some form of Unreal.
Unreal is what I'm going to say.
Unreal 3 or 4.
Unreal 4 is probably the most widely used one. The reason I say Unity is Unity actually misses. It has a lot of things missing.
Yes, but that is one of the go-to indie engines.
It is, but I think...
now that Unreal is what? Royalty-free?
Is it? I didn't see that. It might be.
So.
It might be. I mean, it might be royalty free, and you just have to pay for the upfront license, which would be great. It'd be a steal for a lot of these developers. But yeah, I think one of the reasons Unity and even another one that is very popular that was used for a few games that we've been playing recently is Game Maker.
4 is free.
So
it originally launched at $19 per month plus a royalty fee of 5%. But now Unreal, the latest version of the game engine developed by Epic Games, is now completely free for anyone to use. So yeah, going back, I'll say Unreal 4 because that's accessible. I will say Unity is still very popular, especially for
and so is Game Maker. Game Maker is what they made Death's Gambit in.
Yes.
It's what they made.
What is that called though? Is it SSK or something?
It's just Game Maker is the name of the development. I mean, I've actually made a game on it.
Yeah,
that are really early on,
game.
Really early days, and it was a PSP game that I was able to get running on modded PSP. And I also made another game outside of that. I made a little action adventure game that was like a top-down Zelda style game with sprite work.
Yeah,
and that one I could never get to. I never got both of them
working some
completely
really
right.
Good music for that.
But oh yeah,
if you had time, I would have liked your music to you create music for Saw Plays because you make some cool sprite music.
But anyway, it's just one of those things. But go ahead. What's the next question?
Loki. I actually said this as Sean One Neo in the last episode asked this question. So Loki, the correct question giver, says. Is it possible that in the next generation, the big three will win at the same time? PlayStation continues to dominate, Xbox subscription model thrives, and Nintendo is left all alone in the handheld space. Absolutely. And that is what I predict not only will happen, or not that I would not only say that's what I want, I will predict that is what is going to happen. I guarantee you in the next 10 years, Xbox is going to have one of the best model subscriptions that you can have.
If Google doesn't stick with it.
No, Google. Well, I'm just including these three. It's kind of hard to place Google now. Just what we know.
But even when you say the best, I think that Sony won't worry about it as much if they just benefit from gaining. If they're able to benefit from the rest of the business model as we know it, then I think that there's room for them to go. Okay, well, yeah, Microsoft just comes on as another platform, another platform within our console.
Yes, and that's what I think is going to happen. And I've said it time and time again on the podcast too. Is that I think that you are in the best space of gaming in this generation to experience everything in the world if you have a decent gaming PC, a Switch, and a PS4, because you can play just about every single thing this generation and last generation with the help of stuff on the PC and on the PS4 with PlayStation Now, and then some of their PS2 classics and such.
And then you get to play all the Microsoft exclusives on PC.
And you have the Switch for games like all the Zelda games, all the JRPGs that are now following its trend to Switch. Me and Joe me and my friend Seth actually talked about this, is how I've said it slightly before, but how the 3DS was such a odd system in terms of that the Switch is almost following its footsteps exactly, where it came out with a couple bad games and then one Zelda game, and then it kind of continued to build on in the first year and then a year and a half, and then now it's becoming into this monster that we're looking at. I've said it before recently. I'm more excited for stuff coming out on the Switch in this current distant future than I am for PS4. There's more that's intriguing me more about the Switch, and that's what they...
Yeah, and PlayStation's also winding down. That's another thing, is that we are going towards the end, and that we have the big three, with Death Stranding, Last of Us 2, and Ghost of Tsushima, and I know you're excited for all three of those, but it's like that we've been knowing about them for so long that it's in a different world where the Switch is kind of in the middle of its welling up period. There's going to be a lot of things on it. So I agree. I think that there's definitely a good chance that could happen, and I've constantly said that looks to me, and I think even from what some of Microsoft is saying, it seems very evident that that's the route they're hoping to take in the long run. I still think they'll end up being a console manufacturer, which will put them in a very odd space, but it'll be cool.
They might go the discless route. They may be the ones to pioneer discless. And
technically they are going to be pioneering it.
Well, they may be the ones that stick with it, and that's the only form.
What do you mean Ouya was discless?
Shut up. That does not count in any form. Matt Green says, in your favorite games, what do you dislike the most about them? This one's kind of rough.
I feel like we had a question like this recently, but I'm still okay with it. Let's roll.
We did, and when we say that, we're just giving the viewers a heads up that we are aware that we've answered a question. We're not criticizing you for asking that question.
Yeah,
so just so everybody knows.
It may be a slightly different version of it, but we've answered something similar to this. And that's fine.
We're just doing that in case somebody says, have they answered this before? We kind of answer that question preemptively. But I don't like the performance problems that earlier Dark Souls games had, especially at launch. And those are some pretty big glaring issues in my eyes. Performance is important to me in terms of frame rate and stuff. And I don't like how in... certain other games, Kingdom Hearts 3, God of War, these games that I really, really like, and I would consider my favorite games lately, have these issues like where you're playing the game and then it stops you, and then it's very minor story exposition, and then it's so minor that it's like it's almost useless, but it's never 100% useless.
I know that Kingdom Hearts 3, from the way that you're wording it, was far more of a offender in that case.
Yeah,
I don't think God of War was ever that bad. They utilized a lot of talking while playing.
What God of War did was that it felt padded out, not on purpose, just the way I played the game. It felt padded out towards the end that I got that same feeling of like, come on, let's get this over with. I'm ready to experience this. Spider-Man, shut up, Richard. Spider-Man also did that really badly, in which it was you swinging through the city. Hey, we got to go check this out now. We can't go do this next mission. Go check this out. Go use these abilities here. Just like, no, let me play the game. Like, I want to play the game. You left off on a good
artificial
mission.
Stops that don't even tie into the story.
Yeah, really. You left off on a good mission arc. Now let me do that. God of War, I don't even think did that.
Keep the pacing.
But the pacing towards, I guess that's generally it. It's just great games, great stories, terrible pacing. God of War, the least offender of the three, where it only happened at the very end of the game, and I was just really ready for the resolution of the game because the build-up was really, really done well. Kingdom Hearts 3 had that sprinkled throughout the entire game.
It
Never
did.
a big issue, but it was glaring enough for me to notice and criticize.
Well, and Kingdom Hearts
Spider-Man was the biggest offender.
Kingdom Hearts 3 is actually something we're going to go ahead and talk about that as a latch off into that.
Well, go ahead.
But I'm going to answer this
first.
So mine actually is really lined in with Saul. I love Drakengard 3. Drakengard 3 is a game that had terrible performance problems. It would be really choppy because the frame rate would start dropping. The graphics were really rough looking. It looked like kind of like a late PS2 game. And this is a game that came out in 2013. I'm fairly positive. Yeah, it came out with a blue case of a PS. It was when the PS3 switched over to a blue stripe to match the PS4 case that was blue. So
I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, I can go show you. I have the case still. I have the game still. But yeah, they later PS3 games, the last few that released once the PS4 even came out, they did it to where the PS3 cases also had a blue label, so that it was a visual consistency identity thing. But I had those similar problems. I think outside of that, the game is amazing. I think it tells a really great story. I think the gameplay is fun, even though it does have some performance problems in the middle of it. And I think it also has a fantastic story and interesting characters. A lot of things that I love from the Yoko Taro games. And it was kind of known that for him, it was like you were going to get a Yoko Taro game that was going to have a great story and all these things, but you were going to have some kind of performance issues. Nier, the original, thankfully, really wasn't that bad. It had very mild performance issues, but it just also wasn't that great graphically. Better than Drakengard 3, realistically, a little less monotonous. But, it's like, for all the bad, you take a really whole lot of good. And thankfully, I think Nier Automata actually kind of drove those closer together. You still kept a great narrative, really cool characters, interesting story, all that, with a great soundtrack, and then it also actually had gameplay that had great, ran at the right frame rate and was very fast, guaranteed 60 frames per second thanks to Platinum. And then also, I think the graphics actually took a step up. The only weird thing that I hated, and this goes into Nier Automata, I never understood why they had these semi-see-through black bars during cutscenes. It was weird.
It's weird. It's a little
I assumed
jarring.
it was to help with cutscenes because they didn't have to do anything with cutscenes because the cutscenes would always be within that black bar. Yeah. So it was to help with contrast of the cutscenes. But it was just why not make them solid black?
Yeah, that's honestly I think it was a style choice. I don't mind it. Actually, I didn't even realize I did it until you just pointed it out. Yeah, but I can now exactly.
It's just super weird.
It's not. Yeah, it didn't even bother me at all.
But we're going to use this as an opportunity to go off, and this is from Twitter anyway.
I think our last question too.
This is from Mr. Eric McAllister, also a patron. Thank you, sir. He says this may be a better question for Reader Mail, and we decided that Reader Mail was where it was going to go with him. But now that Kingdom Hearts 3 is launched, after all this time, and was very meh and unfinishable in my opinion, do I have any reason to be excited for a Final Fantasy VII remake? I've lost all interest. Changed my mind. Open for debate.
I'm not going to be the one to change your mind.
Honestly, I'm going to say this. I'm not either.
Yeah.
But I don't think so. I will argue my stance as to where I think the game faulted, and where I do think that it's reasonable to look at people who were underwhelmed by the game or even disappointed in the game. I don't think that it was unfinishable. In my own personal opinion, I do think that it has moments where it is a little weaker.
A slog.
And some of that comes down to pacing, which all Kingdom Hearts games have this problem to an extent where they don't typically do very much story building until the very end, and then they decide to give you just so much expose.
My biggest thing
but they'll give you some kind of mystery ones that'll kind of drive you along throughout the worlds. They've always done that.
Yeah, and they worked kind of well in 3, but my biggest issue with 3 was, like Brett said and what I said earlier, is the pacing. And that doesn't go just for running and then all of a sudden having a cutscene. It goes just for about the whole story. But let's be honest here, like Brett said, Kingdom Hearts has always had pacing issues.
Yeah, their pacing issue is reversed from a normal game. Instead of it being a cool part and then slog and then a cool part and then a slog, instead what Kingdom Hearts kind of does is it'll normally start off with a bunch going on and you'll be like, okay, cool, I'm getting into this. And then the whole middle of the game when you start traversing the worlds is all these weird made up problems that have to do with the world, and they're very, very light on real impactful story within the overarching theme.
Like
so instead instead it just feels like it's why am I worried about what's happening in the Frozen world? How does that pertain to what's happening as a whole? And it has a very light connection. It does. Very light. But it's like the beginning of the game gives you a ton of story. The middle game is this weird slog of something. It doesn't really have any real story pertinence. And then the end of the game just smashes you over the head with plot.
Yeah, and I will say that the game wrapped up the current series really, really well. I will say that all my questions are answered, and there was even a question that I was expecting to have answered better than expected, and that had to do with the prologue. Yeah,
I agree.
I will say though that my biggest issue was that in all Kingdom Hearts games, you had typical NPC talk, and it was a text window. And you could read that as fast as you wanted and be able to skip through it while still reading it and getting it and not taking as long. Now they replaced that since production quality is higher with actual small cutscenes that were about 3 minutes long, 4 minutes long on some of them. And I did not like that change because you can't skip those. You can't. There was no quickening up the dialogue. You just skipped it. And obviously,
I actually preferred that. The biggest thing would be it'd be nice if there was a way to put an option in there, but you really wouldn't because you'd have to. It wouldn't really work
because
that way.
It would have to create a graphic for the dialogue text window, then the font.
Yeah,
so
you just leave it. It'd be fine.
That was my biggest issue with the game was pacing. I think that it wrapped up fine. It delivered what I wanted it to, and it was worth the $60 I wanted it to. My biggest concern with Final Fantasy VII, though, is the battle system. I'm not a fan of the battle system in 15 that much.
It's not copying 15.
I know, but it's still.
But I get your point of it's the most
similar.
recent game.
Yeah.
And if you're going towards this action RPG again, why would I believe that it's not going to be like that?
Recent Square games has had this problem too with pacing, and that's the same goes for Final Fantasy 15, where you're progressing the main story, then all of a sudden you got to ride a chocobo to do a side quest.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like that, and I don't think that that's going to be able to be in 7 because there is fetch quest in 7. There are standard side quests of RPGs, but you're not thrown into much of them. You're thrown into 2-3 of them.
Well, and there's a framework existing for 7. So
that's what I'm
real
saying.
Quick,
is that
I do want to finish the Kingdom Hearts 3 stuff before I move into that. But if you want to finish your Final Fantasy 7 stuff, you can.
No, I was just saying that as for my Kingdom Hearts thing, to go ahead and wrap that up, so you can. It delivered. I wasn't exactly let down by it as much as I thought it would be, and I do think that for them to take this series into this generation, for what they concluded as this chapter, they did a pretty good job. Given most studios wouldn't have been able to touch that kind of level of quality, but from a critical standpoint and from an actual game enthusiast standpoint, is that they could have done better in certain areas, especially the pacing. So,
So I'd say my stance on Kingdom Hearts 3 is also very similar. We were going to try and do an impressions episode, but I actually prefer that we're doing this right now and kind of discussing it this way as a kind of post-mortem and a while after the game. I'll agree that as time has gone on, Kingdom Hearts 3 doesn't stand in my top Kingdom Hearts games at all, but what it does do is exactly like Saul said, It in terms of what it has importance for story, as much as it has problems with how it chooses to do the pacing, like all Kingdom Hearts games do, and this one may even be a more egregious offender than most. It still really does wrap the story up in satisfying ways. At least it doesn't leave really anything open, and that was the biggest worry coming into it. They were going to do too much to leave too many things open, as they've always done. But they realized that this is the end of this arc, and they did a lot. The only things that are left open are things that are new. Thankfully, for the most part. I mean, I realize that they're all essentially new, and they are definitely tied into the series future. And they don't feel weird that they're still left open. There's not things that have been left open since 2, and then also still left open across 358 Days Over 2, Birth by Sleep, and all these games. So that was nice. I like
how they wrapped that up too. They wrapped it up by various boss battles.
Yeah. Oh, that was really fun.
Well. Yeah.
And I thought that was a really great way to do it because you felt like you had one-on-ones.
That was the best part of the game, in my opinion. Was that particular end of the game.
So I'd say this: if you on Kingdom Hearts as it goes, I don't think it's unfinishable. If you get to the finish, I think if you get to the end, you'll feel like it was worth it to the end to there. I'd also say that the combat was fun, but the combat was a little underwhelming, and that was due to the sense that I played on proud mode and really still didn't have a challenge, and you could tell that there was a lot of consensus made. There's going to be a lot of people who were jumping into Kingdom Hearts for the first time, and that was obviously true to the sales numbers. As well as fans, but there's people who either haven't played Kingdom Hearts since the first game, because the sales numbers for the first game is the highest up until now.
Yeah.
And I think 3 hasn't officially been announced to break the numbers, but I think it's going to. But 3 got very close in first month, so it's probably going to break it. But with that said, it's like, these are people that have either only played Kingdom Hearts 1, very likely, or maybe beat it, but haven't played a Kingdom Hearts game since 2 sold about 2 million less than the first game did, and then it's just only gotten worse as the series has gone on because of them being on handhelds. To be fair,
right? And then scattered
platforms. So with this one, I think they had a feeling that a lot of people were going to be jumping in for the first time, and even though they wanted to please fans by bringing back things like keyboard transformations and all those things, they also wanted to make the game accessible for people who are going to be jumping in for the first time. And I feel like they erred a little too much on the side of making the game too accessible. So while it made really fun combat, the combat wasn't as deep as something like 2, where 2 could be played by just smashing X all the way across the board. 2 actually had some cool back-end systems that I love, like the reflex spell and being able to smartly time and use the reflex spell to do massive damage to your enemies and using your drive forms smartly. The game scratches some of those itches barely, but it never gets as deep. That's one of the things I'd say. I think outside of that, it depends on what you like about the Kingdom Hearts games. This one leaned a little too heavily into Pixar, sadly, and I think they chose to do that because they felt like they had something to prove with all the time they took to make this game come out, and they succeeded visually massively.
Also, Square, there are more buttons on the console than triangle. Please do not ever map everything to triangle again. That was ridiculous.
You could switch between it and even cancel them, so I didn't care.
Yeah, it was still annoying to try to open up a chest and trigger a stupid, what are they called again? A scene? No,
the attraction flows.
Yeah,
attraction flow.
I would be out of battle for like 45 seconds and go to a chest and hit triangle to open it up and have to do an attraction. I'm not in battle.
Happened to me twice.
Why is that even in the game? Why can I do that out of the game? There's no point.
Yeah,
it's a battle move. Why can't I do a battle move out of battle?
And the reason it does that is it keeps your timer
I know why it does that.
going, so that if you get into another battle that you have it ready.
Yeah, there's a lot of instances, though, where you don't.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. So, but, I mean, look, as far as that goes, I think that Kingdom Hearts 3 is worth finishing. I will say that there are times that you can very see it as a man. But for it to be the first time coming back to home consoles, I think they did about as good of a... they did not about as good as they could, but they did good considering that it could have gotten a lot worse. And I think that the ending more than makes up for it and does really good for longtime series fans. And it does make still for a pretty fun action game. I'd say more so fun than the combat in Final Fantasy 15. It's more akin to what I think Final Fantasy 15 was aiming to be when it was still under Tetsuya Nomura, before other guy decided he wanted to try and make everything one button, which was annoying. But as for Final Fantasy VII, I think where Saul was getting at, and where I also agree with this, is that part of the reason that Final Fantasy VII doesn't feel like it should suffer from these same slogs is that all it's trying to do is refine upon and modernize an existing template.
Right. It's a framework that's already been there. So if you've played the original Final Fantasy VII, you could expect, I would expect most of the content to be returning and in place where it should be. And
even expanded upon in some situations because there is more technology. And I mean that in the sense of, even if it's expanded in the sense of like, well, instead of this fetch quest acting the way it did, now you are in an open world. So it naturally changes the way it's going to play out.
I do not want that. I want the quest to be the exact same with maybe...
Well, it can't be the exact same because of the change in gameplay. It can't be the exact same. There's going to have to be some changes. The quest would have to change smartly within the camera and combat style change.
I'm trying to think
of the open world view. Now you can still do it in a way that's quick and still fun and non-intrusive, or feels like you're having fun with it. I think 15 was the first time they experimented with an open world in one of their games, and we saw sadly the goods and the bads of what that did, and more bad than good. It felt like an empty open world that made you go too far too often and didn't have an easy way to do it. They improved that over time, like by letting you drive the car off-road to yourself. They did a lot to make it easier.
Midgar and the other areas in 7, they are, well, the only thing I'm questioning is how they're going to do the world map.
Well, see, because if they're going open world, I feel like they're going to do hubs. I feel like you'll be in Midgar, which would be its own hub. Right. Whenever you go to the other areas, I'm not going to name them for whatever, but whenever you do go to the other areas of the game, I think they will again be
village
hubs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there may even be a situation where the village, I'll say that much as too, but where it exists and then there's still an open world outside of it, but it's not necessarily a seamless connected open world. It might be.
I'm still...
But as long as they find ways to make you move along them quicker and more elegantly, like they eventually got to with Final Fantasy 15 after a number of updates, then it's okay.
I got the same thing going on.
But make the world smaller to where it's more dense. Don't go bigger just so you have NPCs spread that much further out. Make a smaller world that's more dense and more interesting.
I'm still on this game like I was 2 years ago in Kingdom Hearts 3. I don't think this game's ever going to exist until I play it.
I mean, that's honestly a fair and probably a better way to do it, because it puts you in the situation of you can't really be disappointed if it doesn't happen.
It's not even about disappointed. It's just there's so much in this game that they're going to change that I have a hard time envisioning it. So I know they know what they're doing, but it's going to be... I'm really excited for it, but I'm not nearly as hyped up for it as I was Kingdom Hearts 3.
Cautiously optimistic.
Cautiously optimistic.
Yeah. I think that's the best way to be on it. I mean, yes, Square's been on a weird thing with their Japanese development this time around, and it's unfortunate that as somebody who's a really long-time Kingdom Hearts fan that Nier Automata ended up being a better game to me in pretty much every aspect, and that's okay. I still love Kingdom Hearts 3. I still enjoyed it a lot. But Nier Automata is definitely head over shoulders. I mean, it's definitely the better game. And I don't even know that many people that would really argue that. I mean, I'm sure that they exist, but it's just, I think one thing I'll give to Kingdom Hearts fans as a whole is I've seen pretty reasonable critiques of the game, and a lot of people who are longtime fans weren't just nipping at the heels. A lot of them, a lot of people actually said, Kingdom Hearts 3 wasn't as good as I was hoping it was going to be.
I was expecting more of a I don't know, what is it, like, not toxic, but I was expecting more of a biased stance in which it was just not going to be correct to what the game actually is.
I thought everyone was going to defend the game to the death, and I mean that in the sense of defend that it was a perfect game. I've seen a lot of people say no, it's good, just like we are.
And choose to ignore the flaws that it had. So I'm actually surprised.
So I mean, again, I don't think that it's really hard for me to do this from where I can feel like I can change your opinion on it, because the only opinion I would say that on here that I think might be able to be changed for you is if you actually go back and beat Kingdom Hearts 3. I think you will find that the last 4 to 5 hours,
last 2 hours,
man, I don't maybe
the last 2 hours, like when you get to the graveyard, I'll say that much.
Yeah, but that's not 2 hours realistically. That's more. I mean, if anything, if you're really going through it, 3 hours.
What?
Yeah, when you first get to the Keylake Graveyard, there's a lot that goes on. I think you may be remembering some stuff weirdly. And actually, not even that, because I'd even argue that the part before that, without going into too much spoilers, but with the part where you go back into the Dark World, that's where the story really starts to pick up. Well, the Edge of Darkness or whatever it's called.
Oh, yeah.
That's where the story really starts to pick up. So, again, I say the last 4 to 5 hours are full of content that's really worth it.
I'll go out 4.
And, but I will also agree with Saul, though, the best parts are the last 2 hours.
Yes.
I will give that. But I would say the last 4 to 5 hours are all worth it. And I think you might actually change your opinion on where it being unfinishable. You may not change your opinion on it being meh.
At least if you're not going to dive back into it, let's go watch it on YouTube.
I'd say that too.
Go check out the wrapping ups of all the stories, and then go check out the final boss fight, because the final boss fight, honestly, is one of the coolest boss fights in Kingdom Hearts history to me. So it was done pretty well.
Yeah, so I agree with that, and I think that right there wraps up Reading Mail episode 7. So thanks, Eric. Thanks to all of our other question askers, patrons, and all. If you would like to support us on Patreon so you can be mentioned as a patron when we do this episode, you can do so by going to the link down in our description below and offering even something as simple as $1 helps us a lot, and it helps us cover hosting costs, equipment costs, all those things. Helps us get other shows off the ground by doing the same thing. And then, of course, if you want to go even further with the $5 thing, you get custom cases, and you get this episode early in audio format.
Yeah, and something I'm going to do on our Discord server is I'm going to open up 2 new channels. I'm going to open up Reader Mail Submission, where no discussion can be had on any questions, just questions only for us, and then Reader Mail Discussion, in which you can jump in and you can answer the questions that are in the submission area Discord for fun, so you can answer them. And I want to implore you guys to join our Discord and then go through this episode and answer each question as we answer them and put them in Discord. And I think that'll be kind of a fun time to have. But like Brett said, thank you all for joining us for episode 7. We'll see you guys back technically you'll see us back on Charcoal Squared for 107, but we'll see you guys back again at Reader Mail number 8.
All right,
thank you.
Thanks to our patrons, Chad V, Dan Barber, Josh Jarrell, Matthew Green, my name is Dan, Douglas Below, Sean Santarud, Eric McAllister, Matt Sycamore, Shadowist, Steven Salazar, The Stonard, Travis Below, Blake Popes, Eduardo Palomino, Stefan Swanlin, Coy Live, and Philip Laguerre, I think. If you'd like to support us, like I said, you can look at the link in the description. Thank you.